had any more questions on the bond issue and all that's going on with that. So one of the first questions I was asked, and the two councilmen will be here in a minute, was asked to give a budget, what it would look like on the half cent if you split it up in the general fund and how it would be broke out if the council had the authority. This is not the council's opinion. This is Billy Plowler trying, like I would prepare a budget for the council and they'd have to approve it. So they haven't looked at it any more than I have looked at it. Well, I have looked at it, Brenda and I have, but they haven't looked at it. This is the first time they've seen this. So if you want to look at that right quick, because that was a question that wanted to be presented tonight. So on the first page, I've split out the half cent to a quarter cent street and a quarter cent to city general. And if you see that $217,000, that would be added from, that would be an additional money in city general for next year's budget if the half cent passes. Okay? We're dealing with two issues. We're dealing with a half cent and 1 cent, and 1 cent stay water and sewer. But the half cent, I put a quarter there. If you go to the second page, if you look over there in column D, that's the extra money that y'all had talked about. Wanted to break it down. It's kind of how we could do it, possibly, and the council could do different. $10,000 more in animal control, which you put $28,000 there. $11,000, $17,000 more in parks. On the next page, $40,000 for fire department and vehicle reserve. On the next page, $60,000 for a police officer, $10,000 for expenses for his police car. The next page is a breakdown of how the $60,000 salary comes up. And then the last page, the full quarter of a cent from the wet bought in last year was $217,500, and the balance of the quarter of a cent, the $58,750, would be put in street fund. Now then, y'all asked for that. That's not something the council's going to vote on tonight because it's not done. If the sales tax got approved, this would have to have more discussion than Billy Plowler. But y'all asked for what it might look like. So there it is in a quick down and dirty, and it's not been going through budget with anybody. Y'all just asked for where the numbers might break down. I'm trying to give you how the numbers might break down. Is there any questions on what the budget might look like next year if you put the half cent in city general and allowed the council to break it down? That would be my suggestion for next year. But there again, I'd have to present, if it gets broke down, I'll present it to the council. And this is the way I would present it to the council, and the council would have, they're welcome to change it any way the council wants because it's the council's budget, the mayor just presents it. But that would be my way of breaking the half cent down if we get the sales tax reappropriated. Is there anybody got any questions on that before we go any further?
So this is the entire half cent in general?
Yeah, well, yeah, but I put a quarter of it in to start out straight with in the street because street in general are play with the same money. Mm-hmm. So I put a quarter of a cent to start with in nothing but street, and I put a quarter of a cent in general, everything else, and at the bottom there was $58,000 left. So if you look on that last page, a full quarter would be $217 from the way the money come in last year, and the extra $58 would still go under street. So it'd be a little more than a quarter of a cent going into street. And if you look at 3 years ago, if you go back to this book that we were provided from Stevens, if you look at 3 years ago, a quarter of a cent only brought in $217,662. So you're putting in the budget more in street than the half cent was generating. Because that was $217,500. Okay? I made sure we put the $217,500. That may not have been exactly the quarter percent, but I put the $217,500, which was the 3 year ago number that money bought in. So it stays the same, and then you'd have an extra $58,000. Okay?
So by this, you would propose that the whole half cent go to general fund?
That's the way the ordinance is. Yeah, when we left the other night, that's the way they're going to present the ordinances tonight. No,
You know,
the way the lawyer's gonna present it tonight, it'll be presented as a whole half cent goes into general, and then the council would have the right to break it up. Y'all ask how we would look at it, and everybody said, we know we gotta have at least a quarter of a cent to stay in there. The quarter cent in each one's not tied, it's at the council's discretion if you do it this way.
So you propose that doing it a whole half cent into general fund would allow streets to actually get more after this question?
No. I broke it down because we were talking when you had to stay a quarter, so I roughly put a quarter of a cent before I started taking any money to any other account and made sure streets was covered first. And when I put the monies that we went over, you've got $58,700 over. Because I started with a 217 in each spot.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay?
Thank you. I'm there.
Okay. And I personally, the council's not going to take the money away from street. We can't. But we can move some of the money because the sales tax from 3 years ago is generating that much more revenue since everybody that's buying online is paying in. That's where the extra money's coming.
Thank you for doing that.
Okay? Now then, if that explains that, we've got 15 minutes. If we need to do more and we go in the council meeting, we can. But I would like to cover the issues on any other questions from what had been discussed from the council or what had been discussed from the audience on the 4 other meetings we've had on all this. And I'm going to ask the question in a minute if nobody else has one. Okay, I'm going to ask my question, and I will let them give us an answer. Some of the concern on Facebook has been we're going to take everything away from water and sewer on the 1 cent tax. It's all going to water. We're refinancing all of the sewer. The $5 million refinancing is half basically water and the other half basically sewer. So we're not taking anything. That number may be, I may be off on that, so don't quote me. Let's go back here to this front sheet. We can show you exactly. There's some of those bond issues that one of them, the $923,000 is straight sewer, right? And then this total is the all the water. Okay, that will still be, you're still funding sewer money out of that bond issue, if I understand it correctly, because those were going to be combined. Then the roughly $328,000 that is left above debt service in the 1 cent tax will be put in an account that can be spent on water and sewer. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So we're not robbing sewer money from everybody. This water project's got to be done. There's not that you already got a letter from the health department. We did get our answer on our filter re-rate. We got our filter re-rate. We'll go over that tonight in the regular council meeting. But that's just about time. That did not get you out of having to do that project. That's a 20-year-old scheduled project, not something come up new. And the health department wants it done. So, has anybody got any questions in the audience on anything else that needs to be answered? Because the way it was left here the other night, the 1 cent will go to water and sewer, a half cent would go to city general, and that's the way the ordinance. Well, yeah, general would include streets, because streets, it would end up in street fund, because street money can't be mixed, but general fund money can be mixed. So, yes, sir.
I'd like to say how much we appreciate you coming down there and explaining what was going on down about the trestle.
We're going to explain that a whole bunch more when we get into the meeting.
That was really an eye opener, and thank you.
Okay.
The way I see this, do I have the floor for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah. The way I see this, that the reallocation of the funds is basically, a simple way for me to explain it would be, we've got a fuel card for F-250 diesel, but we're having to drive, Honda Civic or whatever we're driving. And we got money in this account, but we don't, it's kind of like, our police force is on barely skinning along for one thing, and if we have just say we were 6 votes away from becoming a wet county. Well, with that, you're gonna get some other things. It ain't all gonna be everybody drink a cold bud and go to bed. You're gonna have a certain amount of domestics and a certain amount of other things. And not saying I'm for it nor against it, I'm just stating the fact. But we need to be able to reallocate stuff in an intelligent way instead of winding up with huge amounts of money in the wrong places.
I have one more question that I would like to explain. You explained this at the first meeting. You said under Act 605, explain how if we reallocate the sales tax to where we're paying 100% on the note payment, it's going to be better than because the way the bonds are written right now, we're paying a specific amount only on debt service with the sales tax. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe say your question
Okay.
again. Sorry.
The bond issues we have right now on the sales tax, if we collect $1,000 and it says specifically we make a bond, the payment is so many dollars and the extra money just goes over into the surplus account. But with the reallocation, we'll be making the full debt service on the total $9 million.
Sales tax, yeah.
With sales tax and no
collections,
rate.
No water and sewer revenues. That's correct.
And we're not getting full credit for that sales tax money today the way that's written.
Well, I mean, it depends on your rate analyst, right, and how they interpret the rules, because it's not very specific. But how we've looked at it and how we would interpret it is, you know, if you're using some sales tax collections to pay debt service, you would take that into account in your rate study. Like you would, does that make sense?
The gentleman from Rural Water that we talked to when the council was, back when Bridget was mayor, he said if it's specific, it will be applied specific to debt service and you'll get full credit on it. And he said, I got to see how it's written, but you will make sure it's written to where the full debt service of that $9 million will be paid for first with the sales tax revenue.
This is not going to be, that's right. There's not going to be any water and sewer revenues pledged to these bonds. So you will not be using water and sewer revenues to pay them. You will use the sales tax collections. That's how our documents are going to be drafted.
And today, Brenda, we are having to pay.
That's right. It's a double, it's what we call a double barrel pledge. So your bonds that you have right now, your 2004 bonds and your 2006 bonds are secured by both sales tax collections and, on the one hand, and water and sewer revenues. Does that make sense?
It's the fourth.
Yeah.
For water.
Does
So
that-
that's not giving us full credit when we have our rent study.
Okay.
Everybody understand that? It's a big deal. Okay? We got council, y'all got all y'all's questions answered on that particular issue. We got a lot of things to go over tonight, but I wanted to do that before, since everything that we've been doing on this has been in just a public meeting. This is public and we're not in the council meeting for 7 more minutes.
Will we get a copy of the actual draft of what would be on the ballot?
I didn't bring enough copies, but yeah, it's a public record, so you should definitely be able to get a copy if you want.
We may not have it available for you tonight, but we'll get you a copy of it.
Okay.
Because we got to get it's got to get voted on and it's got to get filed and all that, and then we'll get copies. And if we get a copy back, we can make a copy of it tonight. It's not a big deal. Once everything's signed, if they vote on it, we could give you a copy of it tonight.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of the ballot with me, but I do have it already drafted, so you should be able to give that to whoever.
Are you wanting a copy of the way the ballot would look, or are you wanting a copy of the ordinances?
Ordinances.
Really both.
Well, we can get you.
Yeah, the ordinances are also going to be published in the paper next week.
I'll subscribe to the paper, so I'll get a.
Well, we can get. That's not going to be a problem to get them. It's just at this exact next hour or so we may not be able, because we got to get them signed and all that.
Are there variations of the ordinance, like the council would choose from? I mean,
No.
it's just a general question. So it's
No.
you drafted it and you're gonna present it and.
This is what came out of the 4 planning session minutes.
Yeah.
That's what those were for, was to get it, how the draft would be presented tonight.
So, another question, did we get any responses or answers on grants today? That was the reason for having
No.
it today?
No, ANRC delayed their meeting.
Okay, so we, at this point, we're gonna vote on that without knowing if we're gonna get any grants or not?
Yes, because of the way that the schedule is for it to get on the ballot, they're gonna have to make a decision in order to get it on the ballot. In order for it to be funded January 1st, they're gonna have to make a decision tonight. I mean, we've pushed it off and pushed it off. We extended it to that 17th, hoping to get that, and they postponed that too. So the council's gonna have to vote tonight for them to be able to do their part.
So really, we have a forced vote, right? Because
Not necessarily a forced vote. I mean, we don't.
We didn't get the results, right?
Well, here's
Get the
the,
results. No.
It's irrelevant to me. I mean, I'm 100% against new taxes, but I'm 100% for this because I can see clearly what's happening. It's like me giving one of my daughters $50 to go eat and let my other daughter starve for the night. It's so simple. But
here is the
Just
one,
asking about the grant, that's all, because we thought.
Right,
we
I
were
mean,
gonna
we're-
get to
we're-
that, so
we're at a point where we
I
have
was
to do it
some
either way.
unfinished business for me in my mind, that's it.
Yeah.
We said we were gonna get that answer to those grants, and we don't have it.
And
Do
the
we
state-
have any indication of when we might get that?
state is, Andy, have you heard anything more?
No, all I've heard is the meeting was delayed, probably the same email that,
You know, tonight's vote is just for them to vote for it to get put on the ballot. It's not necessarily passing it. I mean, we obviously have to go vote at the voting station for all that. So if something changes in the next, couple months before it's time to vote, I mean, all that can be changed as well.
Here is, if I understand this vote would go through, if you voted for it, and you voted for you're voting up to $4 million of new money. If you get the grant, and you don't need to borrow but $2 million, then you'll only issue $2 million. You won't issue, if we were to still get the grant, you'll just reduce the funding. You wouldn't borrow $4 million, you'd borrow $2 million. Or,
That's what you said about Sarah, that's what Sarah said about not to exceed.
That's
That-
right,
that
that's
word.
right. All
Yeah.
the, yes, so each ballot question with respect to the bonds has a maximum principal amount, and so that's like your ceiling, but you don't have to issue that up to that full amount if your circumstances.
And
basically,
if
we're
we-
voting on a worst case scenario.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we have this in place and were to get the grant, then the issue of the bond would be, we would only issue a bond for the difference of what we needed to do the project. It wouldn't be $4 million. I don't know what grant we'd get and what percentage. If we get a grant, it won't be 100%. The last money the city got on this type of money, Andy, the city got 25%, 75% grant, right?
that's correct.
So you could get, if you were to get a grant, then we could only be asking for 25% of the $4 million. And that's all you'd issue bonds for. Then if the sewer project come back up, the only downside of this, if the sewer project we're able to do later, we would have to go back and pay to have another election to issue the balance of the bonds. Am I correct on that?
No, you wouldn't have an election to issue the balance of the bonds. What you would have is you would have like a new question just on issuing sewer improvement bonds. So the ordinances that are going to come before you tonight do not include a sewer improvement question. So, but what we are doing is putting the infrastructure in place, so to speak, so that in the future, if you decided you were able to afford it, ready to move forward with it, you could go back to the voters and do just a sewer improvement bond question. That would be secured by the sales taxes.
That's already in
if they
place.
were approved by the voters. Yes.
What happens if it's voted down?
I'm going to go cover a bunch of scenarios tonight. That's going to be part of my presentation. So. If you don't mind waiting, if that's okay.
All right. 6:29, is that close enough to 6:30 for me to call the council in session? It's 6:29. By the time we get through having prayer, I'm sure we'll be at 6:30 in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Alan, you want to say the prayer?
Jesus, you've been so good and so kind to us, and we appreciate you looking out for our little town, Lord. Please help us to do right by you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Chris Fuller.
Here.
Alan Moore.
Here.
Jimmy Clark.
Here.
Gary Brady.
Here.
All present.
Okay. We didn't have it on the list. We need to approve city council minutes for April 10th. We left that one line out of the agenda, but we still need to approve them.
I'll make that motion.
Alan made a motion. Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. It is on the agenda.
Huh?
It's on the agenda.
Did I go miss it?
Approved. Yeah, that's the very first one you got.
Okay, good.
Y'all gotta sign it too. Really signed the wrong one.
This side will be all right.
It's just a little screws.
He did.
I know, that's right.
Yeah.
That'll be my copy.
Both.
I got one of them.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna give you the right one.
No, two of them.
They're both wrong?
It just moved the name down.
That's all right. We'll figure it out.
All right.
I always found the wrong line.
Yeah, that's what.
You have the balance sheet for March 31st in front of you.
Can you remember? make a motion to approve Mark's financials.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
April's is right behind it.
I'll make the motion on April and just let it hang on the floor.
Do I have a second?
I didn't hear what he said.
He wants to postpone the next meeting.
No, I said I'll make a motion on April and just let it hang on the floor. It's water under the bridge.
Okay.
So I'll make that motion.
Make a motion to accept April financials. Have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
We see a lot of these financials too, just to make a note, in and out of there, signing checks and looking through stuff, so just for anyone.
Yeah, this is money already spent. If we need to do something, we need to go back and look at the budget. I'm gonna turn it over.
Okay. Okay, so you all should have 4 ordinances and 1 resolution that are before you tonight. Have you seen them, Susan?
Did not.
Okay. I don't have copies for them.
Other ordinances?
Yeah. Yeah. They're stapled, but you can unstaple them. Okay. That's okay, that won't. I can keep talking. Okay, so there's a few things I want to go over before we start getting into each ordinance. So I want to talk through one, kind of what you have now and what your sales tax collections are going to look like after the election. And then I want to talk through some scenarios on if certain questions got approved and certain questions didn't get approved. Okay, so first, what you have currently, you have a half-cent sales tax that can only be used to pay debt service on sewer bonds, some existing sewer bonds. They were issued in 2006. You also have a 1-cent sales and use tax that has been dedicated, and 25% of the collections of that 1-cent tax can be used to pay debt service on a water bond that was issued in 2004. 25% of the collections of that 1-cent tax can be used for water and sewer purposes, and then 50% of that 1-cent sales tax can be used for street purposes. And so kind of what we're here to do tonight is to put to the voters a reorganization of sorts of your taxes. So here's what you would end up with. The first ordinance, and I'm sorry, we'll get you copies, but the first ordinance that's going to be before you is levying, it's called a new half-cent sales and use tax, but think of it in your mind as it replaces the one that you currently have. That half-cent tax would be used for street purposes, general municipal purposes, and debt service on the bonds. That's just in case that your collections went down and you needed some extra coverage. Your bondholders will appreciate that, but we're not anticipating that you would need to use that half-cent for debt service. So, sort of as the mayor explained earlier, he gave an example of how that half-cent could potentially be allocated in your budget next year. The second ordinance that's going to be before you is going to call an election on that half-cent tax. The third ordinance that's going to be before you is going to amend your ordinance that levied your 1-cent tax, your original 1-cent tax. And what that will look like, if the voters were to approve it, is that it would be used to pay debt service on bonds, and it would be used to pay water and sewer purposes. So whatever amount of that 1-cent tax that's left over after paying debt service would go back to the city to be used only for water and sewer purposes. There's going to be a resolution before you that's going to refer that ordinance to the voters. And then there's going to be an ordinance before you that is going to have 3 bond questions. The first bond question is going to be refunding the 2004 bonds. The second question is going to be refunding the 2006 bonds. And the third question is going to be bonds for new improvements to your water system. And this would be secured by the collections of the 1 cent tax and the half-cent tax. Does that make sense? So there's going to be a total of 5 questions on the ballot. And if all the questions get approved by the voters, you'll get everything you want, right? You'll get revenue to use for street purposes, for general municipal purposes, whatever the council decides. You'll have funds available for your water and sewer system, and you'll have funds to pay debt service on your bonds. If your voters voted no on all of the questions, nothing would change. And in order for you to complete your water project, you'd have to look at issuing water and sewer revenue bonds. So you'd have to pay it from collections of your water and sewer revenues. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the more complicated scenarios. Okay. What happens if the voters do not approve the changes to the half-cent tax and they vote yes on everything else? You would have no dedicated revenue coming in for streets or general municipal purposes, and you would have less coverage for your bonds, for your debt service. And you as the city council would have to decide if you wanted to refinance your 2006 bond or not. What happens if the voters do not approve the changes to the 1 cent tax, but they vote yes on everything else? No bonds would be issued. And you could potentially end up with a tax increase if they voted no on the changes to the 1 cent and yes on a new half cent. Does that make sense? So no bonds would increase, or no bonds would be issued, so that other half cent would stay on the books. Does that make sense? Okay. What happens if the voters say yes to yes to everything else, but no to refunding your 2004 bonds? That's the ones that's secured by 25% of the collections of your 1 cent tax. 25% of the collections of your reorganized 1 cent tax would have to be used to keep paying on that bond. Does that make sense? Okay. What happens if the voters do not approve refunding your 2006 bond, but they approve all the other questions? Then again, you would end up with a net tax increase. You could still refund the 2004 bond, you could still do your water projects, but that other half cent would stay on the books paying for the 2006 bond. Does that make sense? Okay. And finally, what happens if the voters vote no on the water improvement bond question, but they vote yes on everything else? You can refund your 2004 and your 2006 bonds. You get the sales taxes rearranged how you want them, but you would either have to do your water project with a bond secured by water and sewer revenues, or you'd have to look at going to the voters again at a later date to try to get that issued again. Does that make sense? Okay. Those are all my scenarios. Does anybody have any questions about that or what might happen?
I do.
Yes.
All right. Okay. The goal here is to reallocate the existing assets, basically. And
Yes.
so, if we were to vote it down, we stand in jeopardy on item 1 or item 2 of ultimately having a tax increase, which would be, it could be oxymoron sort of, because people be like, no, they got enough control, and then vote it down and then wind up in worse shape.
Well, if they vote no on everything, nothing changes.
But it stays in place on, if it starts breaking up, and that one you said stays in place, it's going to,
Yeah. If
okay,
you-
I had made a note here, it said it eliminates an existing and replaces it with,
Yeah, that's
Right.
like a way to think of it. But if they vote no on a new half cent tax, and they
Right.
vote no on refunding the other, nothing changes. Your tax rate stays the same, and you don't get to do any bonds.
But our water and sewer will be at, pretty much will be like, we could be in a real serious bind, right or wrong.
If you can't afford to
Our
do,
general fund's in shambles now.
yeah, if they vote no on everything, nothing changes, and your financial situation doesn't improve. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the sad thing about it is they vote no on everything, and we've got money in an account that could be making the payments. We can't use it for that because that's not what it's dedicated for. We're going to have to put $4 million for improvements in the water department. It's going to have to go on the rates that there's no need in doing that if we reallocate this. If we don't reallocate it, the health department's already got your letter, and you're not going to dodge the bullet on. It's irrelevant whether you think it ought to be rural water, city water. That's all water under the bridge from whenever Sharon was mayor 25 years, 30 years ago, when we decided to be a regional water supplier. We're a regional water supplier. We can't get out of that. There's not any way out of that. So that, we can't say let's not fund Norman and let's not give North Pike County water and just make it a Glenwood system. That water went down, that's already passed, that's already over the dam down there at Arkadephian 40 years ago, 30 years ago, whenever that was, it was done. So we can't go back on that. So whether you agree with that scenario or whether you don't, we're going to supply water to Norman, and we're going to supply water unless North Pike County eliminates to go somewhere else, and there's not anybody else there to provide for them if we work with them. So we're there. Andy, is that?
That's correct.
We're not going to get out of doing this project. Now then, you may postpone it and kick the can down the road 2 or 3 years. The project's going to be done, or we'll be in physical distress. We already have that letter. And we have a way of doing the $4 million project without raising. We can reallocate this and not raise. I think our rate structure is going to look a lot better in under 605 when we get the rate study done, with 100% of that $9 million debt being paid for. Mr. Stevens over there, am I wrong? We're going to look a lot better if that whole debt's being paid for with the sales tax. It's dedicated for that, rather than having it in the rate structure. We're going to pull $5 million, well, probably $4 million, whatever the thing over the 25% of the note payment is we're paying today. And I have to get Brendan to give me that number because I'm not for sure what it is. The $0.25 that's dedicated is all that can go for the note payment. And the way we're going to do it, all of it can go for the note payment. We're going to get full credit for that. And whatever we're making today on the payment out of our rate structure, that'll come out of the rate structure. I didn't say we're not going to still have a rate increase. That's an unknown. But it will be less than where we're going to be if we don't do it. Does everybody understand that?
To sum it up, if I understand you right, the things are going to happen. We can either make it easy on ourselves or not easy on ourselves, but it's going to happen regardless. Not necessarily getting it passed, but the health department's not going to tolerate us not doing the water to the best of our ability with our funds. But at the same time, something that I think about quite often is if someone calls, they want somebody, they don't, they might be anti, funding police, for instance. I just come top of my head. Anti-funding a certain thing, but whenever they get in a domestic at their daughter's house, they want someone there. And I guess what I'm saying is the people will have more control as a citizen with this, to where our hands aren't so tied to be able to address the issue at hand. Is that right, Billy, or wrong? Whatever we're...
Be correct.
So from my perspective, in terms of the rate study piece, what we're talking about here is the water and sewer bonds will be paid, the water bonds will be paid for by sales tax revenues, and it will have no impact on your water and sewer revenues as of now. What we're talking about is this particular debt obligation. What happens in the future related to other things is a separate question, a separate piece. This is just focused on the $4 million for this particular project.
Correct.
Well, it would also be focused on the 5 million refinance, because whatever is in that we're having to pay for out of rate structure now can come out of rate structure.
That's right.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, all of your debt proposed under these ordinance will be paid for by the sales tax revenue and will not be paid for by any water and sewer revenues.
That, like they said in that 605, that would be considered, they did structure that way.
Yep. The reason why it's considered now is because of what was mentioned earlier, is you do have water and sewer revenues that are pledged to that, so there is an obligation on those revenues currently.
Okay.
So that takes into account when they talk about your rates and where they need to be.
But it wouldn't make it back because it's not structured like that.
That's correct. So the way we're structuring this particular bond offering, this particular debt obligation, it is secured only by sales and use tax revenues, period. It does not have an impact on your
Okay.
water and sewer revenues.
And that's what that class gets.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Mayor.
Yes.
If the, if none of this passes, does the Rural Water Association just send us this letter that says we're going to fix it? They'll provide water to the places we're supposed to. If we don't do that, will they come take over control of the system?
Ask the question one more time.
In other words, if none of this passes, then we're unable to do what we need to do to reallocate what we need. If none of it passes, does the Rural Water Association then come take control of your system?
If we don't, Andy, you could probably explain that. Eventually, if we don't do this, would either have to put it in the rate structure, or at some point in time, and I don't know what date that is, you'd be in physical distress and we'd lose system.
Right, but the rural water systems
Would not.
Wouldn't do that. It would be a health department action. The rural water systems would not.
Whichever state department would come take it,
Be the health department.
and they would come take control of it, and they set the rates.
That's correct.
Correct.
So we can end up with 2 or 3 times what we're paying now.
Yeah, because whoever they get to administer is going to get in compliance with the law, and they're going to make money at it.
Okay, are we ready to look at the ordinances?
Is there something that you guys heard that we need?
Yeah, I just didn't have it. I think there's more copies.
There are a
But
couple
no, I
more
don't.
up here.
Yeah, there's more copies. Sorry, she had asked for a copy before you came in.
That's okay.
Sure.
Somebody want, is those the copies, extras?
Yes, these are extra
If
copies.
anybody wants another copy of these, they can get them. They're right here.
Okay. Okay, so the first ordinance that's before you, it's going to be ordinance number 23-02. This is going to levy the half-cent tax for street purposes, general municipal purposes, and debt service
They're all put together. That's everything.
on bonds.
Take them all.
There's a whole bunch of them.
Yep.
There is a whole bunch of
Here's a
them.
whole
That's
bunch.
all of
Take
them.
That's
you
all
take a whole
together.
pack.
That's a packet.
Chris, do you have another set?
Here you go.
There's 2 more sets up here.
Well,
That's worth
1.5.
Thank you. Sorry about this, guys. Got to jump.
yeah, oh yeah. Does any council member have a question about the first ordinance, just ordinance number 1? The first ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I was sitting there looking, I done read through, this is number 1 right here though. Yeah, I thought it was number 2.
2302 will be your first one.
The second, the third item down, it says, whereas the city is currently levying a 1% sales and use tax under the authority of authorizing legislation. Is there any way, which I know we're at the end of the game now, but is there any way to word that where it's just like a little, a lot of people just glance at it and vote?
No, it just,
Because
it's,
initially glancing at it, it looks like we're
I
slapping
just-
a new tax on.
Well, I know, and it says new, but that's how it's got to be
Right,
worded
I
under the
understand.
statute. Yeah, it's just how, I mean, ultimately, if everyone votes yes on all the questions, you're going to end up with the same tax rate. Your taxes are not going to increase. So that's the thing to keep in mind. But how it's worded is, I mean, that's just
Yeah,
how
it's
it's got to be
legal
worded.
stuff.
Just because the half-cent tax that you have right now is levied under a different statute.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
But how it's put out, I mean, obviously this is for the ballot, correct?
This
These are the ordinances, this is the legal,
This is the ordinances that are going to be adopted by
But how
you.
it's-
How it's worded on the ballot is, if you can see this what's going to be on the second ordinance.
Okay.
This right here, that's what's going to be on the ballot.
okay.
It has, this
Ryan,
is
you
like
got
the
another
form,
ordinance? I
yeah.
don't have ordinance one.
There's not a one, it starts with 2.
Yeah, there is.
2302.
There is a one.
I got an
one?
extra one right here.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the upper left-hand corner, that's for
Yeah, I'll
y'all's
have the
reference.
resolution
That's,
one.
that's for y'all's reference.
Hey.
That's not like the actual
I'm not
ordinance
technically
number,
a
if that makes
secretary.
sense. That's so we can keep it
Do
all
you need
straight.
one, or have you got one?
We
I
can,
got
she got
one.
one.
I do.
I made sure she got what she needed.
I'm sitting here wondering what y'all are
I'm
talking
good.
about, because I'm reading the
He's reading the
resolution.
resolution one.
All right.
You got 1, 2, and then there's 3 that's stapled together. If you gotta go through this, look, ordinance 3, stapled. There you go.
Okay,
I can do
so
that
we're
for
just
you.
on ordinance 1 right now.
Let me have your packet.
There it is up in. Here, keep this. I'm getting mixed up now. I'm good, thank you.
No problem.
That's why.
You got a good color on this.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I didn't think about
Right here,
colors.
I got it.
He eats the crayon.
All right, any questions?
Are there any more questions on ordinance number 1? If they're not, now, Mayor, would be the appropriate time to entertain a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its first reading by title only.
Do I have such a motion?
There's,
Those are big.
You got at least where you worded properly? There you go.
and I filled the top copy out with the ordinance
We're
number.
just formalizing what we've already been discussing, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, I'll
Now
make
we
that
are,
motion.
okay,
Alan made the motion.
Alan made the motion for the first one.
to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its first reading by title only.
Yes. To suspend the rules. Man.
Yeah,
Alan,
I'm good at
You
that.
gotta be right.
It's okay,
you're gonna help me write this
I
down.
got
Suspend the
you.
rules and, okay. So then what do I need to read?
This is, you don't need to
We
read,
need a
I'll
second.
read the, yeah, we need a
Okay.
second.
I need a second now.
I'll second.
Seconded by Chris. All in favor?
Please do a roll call.
Roll call.
State your name.
Oh, he did.
Okay, roll call. Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fisher,
Fuller.
Fuller.
Fuller,
Aye.
or Fisher, Fuller, Alan Moore.
Okay, and then I'll read the title. Ordinance number 23-02, an ordinance providing for the levy of a 0.5% sales and use tax within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then if we could have a motion to suspend the rules and place it on its second reading by title only.
Do you have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Jimmy Clark made the motion. Second,
I'll second it.
Kerry Brady. All in favor?
Aye.
Hang on a second.
Okay, so roll call. Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-02, an ordinance providing for the levy of a 0.5% sales and use tax within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then if we could have a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its third reading by title only.
I'll make that motion.
Chris Fuller made the motion. Have a second?
I'll second
Alan
it.
Moore
Yeah.
made the second. Roll call vote,
Okay,
please.
so roll call. Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-02, an ordinance providing for the levy of a 0.5% sales and use tax within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then if we could have a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Do you have a
The
motion to
motion to
adopt the
adopt.
ordinance? Kerry Brady made the motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Alan Moore seconded. Roll call, please.
I might want to let him catch up.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Okay. All right. The second ordinance that is before you, it's going to be officially numbered 23-03. But up in the top left corner it says ordinance number 2. This one is calling an election on the levy of the half-cent tax. Does that make sense? And then you can see, kind of as your question earlier, what it's going to look like on this question on the half-cent tax is going to look like on the ballot. It's right there on that front page. That's exactly what the ballot's
Right
gonna
here in
look like.
this part is what it would say?
Yes, where it
Okay.
says for and against, that's the form of what will be on the ballot. For this one, this is your first question that will be on the ballot. So we're going to go through the same process again. So and I'll be happy to answer any questions, but if we don't have questions, it would be appropriate, Mayor, to entertain a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its first reading by title only.
Is there any questions?
I have a question, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm just trying to do this right, and I don't want to mess it up.
I mean, if you just keep track of like the names, you really could fill it in later. But
Okay.
just
Yeah.
whoever makes the motions,
We'll do that.
and it'll make it. It'll just
And
be
this is
like
for
filling in blanks.
2303?
3, yes.
Any questions? Any more questions?
This is just to put on the ballot, the first before we talk about.
Yep, that's right.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Okay. Ordinance number 23-03, an ordinance calling a special election in the city of Glenwood, Arkansas on the question of levying a 0.5% sales and use tax within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then if I could have a motion to suspend the rules and place it on its second reading by title only.
I'll make that motion.
Chris Fuller made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Kerry Brady. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-03, an ordinance calling a special election in the city of Glenwood, Arkansas on the question of levying a 0.5% sales and use tax within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then if we could have a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its third reading by title only.
I'll make that motion.
Alan Moore. Chris Fuller made, seconded. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-03, an ordinance calling a special election in the city of Glenwood, Arkansas on the question of levying a 0.5% sales and use tax within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then if we could have, again, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but if you're ready, I'm going to motion to adopt the ordinance.
Any questions?
No, I would like to know that all we're doing is putting it before the people. It's not like we're sitting there passing nothing. We're just getting it on the
That's
ballot.
right.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right.
I just want to reiterate that.
Yes.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Okay, I guess attached to your, now we're going to move on to ordinance number 3. It says 3 in the top right-hand corner. It might be attached to your, yeah. And it's going to be officially numbered 23-04. This ordinance is amending ordinance number 02-02, and it's changing the purposes of your existing 1 cent tax. And I'll be happy to explain that again. What you have right now is your 1 cent tax. 25% of the collections of your 1 cent tax go to pay debt service on a water bond that was issued in 2004. 25% collection of the collections of that tax go to your water and sewer system, and then 50% of the collections of that tax go to street purposes. And if the changes were approved by the voters, the 1 cent tax would be used for debt service on the bonds and your water and sewer system. Whatever's left over after debt service would be used for your water and sewer system. Does anybody have any questions? And if there are no questions, now would be the appropriate time to entertain a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its first reading by title only.
I'll make that motion.
Jimmy Clark made the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-04, an ordinance amending ordinance number 02-02 in order to authorize the net collections of the 1 cent sales and use tax levied within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas by ordinance number 02-02 to be used for one or more of the following. A, water and sewer purposes, and B, to pay and secure the repayment of bonds approved by the voters and issued by the city from time to time to finance and refinance capital improvements and prescribing other matters relating thereto. And then if I could have a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its second reading by title only.
Make the motion.
Kerry Brady made the motion. I have a second.
I'll say that.
Alan Moore seconded. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-04, an ordinance amending ordinance number 02-02 in order to authorize the net collections of the 1% sales and use tax levied within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas by ordinance number 02-02 to be used for one or more of the following. A, water and sewer purposes, and B, to pay and secure the repayment of bonds approved by the voters and issued by the city from time to time to finance and refinance capital improvements and prescribing other matters relating thereto. Okay, if we could have a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its third reading by title only.
Make the motion.
Kerry Brady made the motion.
I'll second.
Chris Fuller seconded. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-04, an ordinance amending ordinance number 02-02 in order to authorize the net collections of the 1% sales and use tax levied within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas by ordinance number 02-02 to be used for one or more of the following. A, water and sewer purposes, and B, to pay and secure the repayment of bonds approved by the voters and issued by the city from time to time to finance and refinance capital improvements and prescribing other matters relating thereto. And then if there are no questions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but now would be the appropriate time to entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
Alan
That's
Moore
the
made
last
the motion.
one.
We got two more after this.
Okay. Can we lump them up, maybe?
Jimmy Clark seconded. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Okay. Now we are on resolution number 1. And this is going to be officially numbered resolution 23-02. This resolution, it's just referring the ordinance that we just passed, is referring it to the voters. And the ballot, how it's going to look, it's about in the middle of the page there. That's how the ballot question's going to look. And we have to read, I'll read it, but we have to read this in full, and then we'll do a motion to adopt. Okay. Are you ready? All right. Resolution number 23-02. Whereas the City Council of the City of Glenwood, Arkansas, the city, has adopted ordinance number 23-04, that's the one we just adopted, on May 17th, 2023, ordinance number 23-04. And whereas the City Council desires to refer ordinance number 23-04 to the voters for approval or rejection, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Glenwood, Arkansas. Section 1, there is hereby called a special election to be held on August 8th, 2023, at which election there shall be submitted to the voters of the city the question of whether ordinance number 23-04 shall be approved or rejected. Section 2, the question of approving or rejecting ordinance number 23-04 shall be placed on the ballot in substantially the following form. Ordinance number 23-04, an ordinance amending ordinance number 0202-02 in order to authorize the net collections of the 1% sales and use tax levied within the city of Glenwood, Arkansas, by ordinance number 02-02 to be used for one or more of the following. A, water and sewer purposes, and B, to pay and secure the repayment of bonds approved by the voters and issued by the city from time to time, to finance and refinance capital improvements and prescribing other matters relating thereto. 4, ordinance number 23-04 against ordinance number 23-04. Section 3, the election shall be held and conducted in the vote canvassed and the results declared under the law and in the manner now provided for municipal elections, and only qualified voters of the city shall have the right to vote at the election. Section 4, the results of the election shall be proclaimed by the mayor, and the proclamation shall be published one time in a newspaper having a general circulation in the city, which proclamation shall advise that the results as proclaimed shall be conclusive unless attacked in the courts within 30 days after the date of publication. Section 5, a copy of this resolution shall be A, filed with the Pike County Clerk and the Montgomery County Clerk at least 70 days prior to the election date, and B, given to the Pike County Board of Election Commissioners and the Montgomery County Board of Election Commissioners so that the necessary election officials and supplies may be provided. Section 6. The mayor and city clerk for and on behalf of the city are hereby authorized and directed to do any and all things necessary to call and hold the special election as herein provided. Passed May 17, 2023.
Do I have a motion to accept resolution 2302?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Alan Clark seconded. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Okay, last but not least, this is ordinance number 4. It's going to be officially numbered ordinance number 23-05. Should be the last one in the stack. We're almost done. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And this ordinance is submitting the questions on issuing bonds to the voters. So there's going to be 3 questions submitted to the voters regarding the issuance of bonds, and that starts on page 2, what they're going to look like. So there's going to be a refunding bond question for the 2004 bonds, a refunding question for the 2006 bonds, and a new money, a water improvement bond question. So that's what the ballot questions will look like. And then I'd be happy to answer any questions, but if there are no questions, now would be the appropriate time to entertain a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its first reading by title only.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Alan Moore made the motion. Kerry Brady seconded. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Oh, sorry. Ordinance number 23-05, an ordinance calling a special election in the city of Glenwood, Arkansas on the questions of issuing bonds under amendment number 62 to the Constitution of the state of Arkansas for the purpose of financing and refinancing all or a portion of the cost of capital improvements and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then if I could have a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its second reading by title only.
I'll make that motion.
Jimmy Clark made the motion.
I'll second it.
Kerry Brady seconded. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-05, an ordinance calling a special election in the city of Glenwood, Arkansas on the questions of issuing bonds under amendment number 62 to the Constitution of the state of Arkansas for the purpose of financing and refinancing all or a portion of the cost of capital improvements and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then if I could have a motion to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on its third reading by title only.
I'll make that motion.
Chris Fuller made that motion.
Second it.
Kerry Brady seconded. Roll call, please.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Kerry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Ordinance number 23-05, an ordinance calling a special election in the city of Glenwood, Arkansas on the questions of issuing bonds under amendment number 62 to the Constitution of the state of Arkansas for the purpose of financing and refinancing all or a portion of the cost of capital improvements and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. And then, again, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but if you don't have any questions, now would be the appropriate time to entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll make that motion, if there's no question.
You have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
I noticed you mentioned both counties, Pike and Montgomery. As part of the city limits goes into Montgomery County.
That's correct.
Does this have to be printed in their paper? Because they're the only paper of general.
But Glenwood is the city.
No, it's just, the statute requires the ordinance to be published in a newspaper in the city. So, the Glenwood paper has an office in the city, and so that's where we're gonna publish.
Because there's no reason to pay double.
Alan?
Is the expense of doing this special election, is that something we're gonna have to allocate money to, or is it like, do we figure out a campaign amount, or like, how does that exactly work? Is there like a lot of filing fees, or is it expensive to put on a special election?
Yes, and
Okay,
I
and
think
that money's gonna come from where, water and sewer, or from street, or what?
that's up to y'all.
That'll be up to us.
Okay.
Some of the costs can be reimbursed by the bond issue, so like
Okay.
publication costs, that can be reimbursed by the bond issue.
Okay.
But election costs are not typically reimbursed.
Okay.
So we have a motion to adopt, but we need a second.
I'll second it.
Jerry Brady seconded.
Roll
Roll
call.
call.
Jimmy Clark,
Aye.
Terry Brady,
Aye.
Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore.
We did it.
Now then,
We
what
have
do we got to
it,
sign?
there will be a ballot in August for you guys to decide on.
Once I fill all this out, we'll sign it.
That's
Right?
Yeah, you can do that later, I don't need that right away.
Okay.
Do you need anything else signed on that?
You don't have to sign this tonight, but I will mark the ordinance numbers, and then everything has sign here. So it'll need to be signed by you and
Okay, before we go on, we'll get it all
Ryan,
signed.
and then we'll seal.
Who sealed? The city seal?
Six.
Okay. So we gotta get all this signed on that.
Yeah, if you, yeah.
Now you say, what are we gonna take to Pike and Montgomery County tomorrow?
A copy of each of these.
So we make a copy of those once we copy them? Okay.
No, I would like the originals file marked, please.
You want the original stuff?
That's right.
Okay.
So there's 4 copies of each, of ordinance and the resolution. So I would really like you to take 2 to each one
Okay.
and get them file marked, and then send them back to me.
Billy,
You will stay
take
after
the time and sign it right now so it's right.
I'm with you on
You
that.
gotta get it done. I mean, that's something we need to mess up on.
You got the city seal? The city seal?
Get it done.
I'll fill in the numbers for you.
So was this first one, was it 2302 or was this?
Yes, and I've marked the first copy of that with the numbers.
Okay, so I started getting confused on the second one.
Yeah, so here you go. I marked it.
So that was 2302.
That's right.
So what was all this first one that I did? That was the first reading? So that's the first reading?
Yeah, like
This
first
is-
reading, second reading, third reading, motion to adopt,
Okay,
and then, yeah. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
But all those spots were, this was first reading, second reading,
That's right.
third reading, motion to adopt, and then we went to 2302.
Let me just tell you,
Yeah, then it
you need to
says-
stamp them when we get this done.
The motion, the ordinance was adopted, and y'all gave it the number 2302. Does that make
Okay.
sense? And then
Yeah,
it
so
starts.
this is the next one.
That's right.
Okay, now I get it.
Do you want to do it now or what?
They're wanting it done now, I'm fine doing it. That's what they want. You gotta fill that out, or you wanna fill these out first? You wanna sign these, we go through? Sure. We gotta get them all signed.
So these ones are we have to sign and.
Can y'all
Should have
forward
put seal on.
these ordinances to Glenwood Herald?
I'm gonna, yeah,
Get
I'll
his
handle.
data.
She can just seal.
There's two spots on this.
You don't have to have it. Okay.
Two spots on this, but there's only one spot on my signature, two spots for the seal.
Okay.
Yes, I have his email address, so I'm
Do
gonna
ya?
send it to him.
My suggestion would be to talk with the lady in Tracy.
This is-
I have her
There's
email
two
address.
spots for the seal on that
Take
one.
a full page
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
or more.
There's that one
It
underneath
takes
the
like
name.
2.
But the main thing is that she can, if you send it to her in a Word document.
We have ordered you
not as a
one.
PDF.
You ordered one?
Yeah, just hadn't got there yet.
Okay.
Spacing and stuff out there.
Perfect.
Otherwise, we end up with
Yes,
2 pages.
Newspaper full of words.
I will absolutely do that.
I've done that
Oops,
before.
that's the board treasurer on that one.
Put it in the.
Yes, I've heard you on that
I
one.
made it type so small you couldn't read it.
We need it to be legible.
I don't need it to be small. I need it to be regular size and she can do that.
It just has to be the seal.
If you could work with her, she can do it all. And being our admin, she knows how to put all this stuff together. That way she can put it together and put my vision on. I don't even have to send it.
Okay, perfect.
And that way she has all the stuff, plus the fact you get your first publication faster.
Perfect.
And we ordered you a hole punch too.
All right, I love hole punches. So these ones here that I'm filling out, they go back to you, they're not what we need to take.
We'll ask her to do it.
What's the question?
These ones that
I
I'm
know
filling
it's
out,
gonna be simple,
over
but I'm
here.
just curious.
oh,
Why do they vote on one resolution? Is it because of the way the ordinance is written, that they have the one
What do
instead
you
of
mean, like not having to?
you didn't have a resolution on all of them, so I know
Oh,
there's a
that's right.
reason.
It's yes. It's just the way it's just the way it's set up. So this one is that one is so complicated.
I'm
so we
sorry.
have no. I know. So the ordinance number 3 is an amending ordinance. So in order to refer that to the voters, we have a resolution referring that to the voters. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. Perfect. Thank you. I was just trying to wrap my head around it all.
Yes, it's very complicated.
Do you,
Just about that. Probably worse. $9 million here. If it goes, it'll be worse. We don't have to redo these to reissue your bonds as long as they say we're capable. That's right. We just have to do is vote on the bonds.
Yeah, it would be.
It's not
it'd be
completely
one,
restructured
It'd
like
be
this.
a one ordinance, one
Much
question,
simpler next time we go
one
through it.
question kind of a thing.
The only difference is there will be an emergency clause on that.
You have to wait.
Like if we did a bond issue to lock in the rates, we have to vote for it that night to go into effect.
so there's no emergency clause on these?
No, because they're going to go to the voters, so they won't be effective unless the voters approve.
Right, okay.
Sorry, you got ahead of me.
I'm not ahead of you. I'm fine.
Brother has a hard job.
No.
He's over there.
The ones they have on city, they have a
do this to all my court documents.
Yeah, we're good at it then.
Okay, but they're missing, yeah, they're missing. I may have Well, I know they, I mean, I know that, you know, how that from the street.
What that does?
We're getting closer.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Does the resolution need to be printed as well? Just want to make sure that she knows it's all coming.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
I'm gonna scoot over so you can talk to him so you get the rest of that finished up.
Okay.
And then I'll be right back. Since y'all are gonna do that, I'm gonna put it.
Oh, you got this.
That's not BC.
You said that on purpose. You said that on purpose.
That's probably
That was
why.
my life.
I saved you that. He's been calling you 50 times. Where's his copy going?
Did I not say that?
I know how he is.
I
He has 9,000 things going on. No,
It'd be really sitting there. Well,
because that's
it's not out there.
Florida passed, I think it's challenged.
That's exactly right. And that would be our luck.
So on these here,
Yes.
and these get signed here.
No, you just fill them out. Yeah, just fill in blanks with the names. So you can do, you know, some people do last name only, some people put full names. Very complicated. There's nobody voted nay on it.
Oh, yeah.
The world, and everybody voted nay.
So I put all the names here,
Yeah.
put all four names
All
in.
4 names. And then, like I said, you put none there. And then so that's got everyone's present. Debbie was absent. Yeah.
So I have to write everybody's name down.
So many.
Yes.
Sir, you have that back with you now?
Just anything in that.
I just have to get those done.
Yeah, just send them back to me when you send this back.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can get this all back.
But there's no signature, so I don't need everybody here. This is just me.
No, this is just you filling. Yep, that's right.
All right, let's get back. We've got that part of the paperwork signed. We'll finish the rest of it tonight on the minutes over here. But let's get on with the city council meeting, please. We thank y'all so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank y'all.
And we will need to get with y'all and set up some public meetings when y'all get now that we have it decided what we're gonna present to the voter, how to present and explain to the voter what's going on.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to look at any marketing materials that you use.
If y'all can come up with some ideas on it, it would be very nice.
That's probably not our scope, but I'd be happy to review them.
We'll do our best.
Can I pass it down? Okay, we will get some help on that. We will get some public meetings. Okay, Brenda,
File marked tomorrow in both.
would you take custody of these, please? Those I have to take to Murfreesboro, and I don't know when I'm going to do it tomorrow because I got to get samples to the health department tomorrow. But anyway, we'll get them done. You make sure to hang on to those. All right. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, Fun Park Grant. We are applying for, and this is a meeting for the public tonight as well. Is that the right first one?
Yep.
Okay. It is a grant application for $100,000. It's no match. If we get it, it's 100% grant. Be handicap accessible. We have no playground equipment at the John Benjamin Park. So this is to try to get some playground equipment at the John Benjamin Park. The city council, if we got approved on the grant, if I understand that right, we would look at the equipment and pick it out. Or Andy, will we do that before? How will we do that if you get it?
Once you're funded, we'll take a look and see what equipment will fit the budget along with the scope of work that Karen was doing.
So this is a 100% matching grant. And the problem with this grant this year, if we may very well not get it, because the state redid the law on that this year, and every city under 7,200 gets to apply for it instead of cities under 2,500. So, but it is a 100% matching grant. Is there any discussion on it or anything you'd like to say? It will be engineered by A.L. Franks, and Karen Barlow is doing the paperwork on the grant. Yes, sir.
How much would there be up there, just swings and?
Whatever $100,000 worth buys. I don't have that answer because we've got to look at what they'll give us. No need in looking at that until we get approved for the grant.
You don't want too much up there.
Oh, it won't be too much because that commercial playground equipment's expensive.
And they're also going to try to make it handicap accessible as well, so that's probably going to change the price.
It's a lot safer up there in this park back there.
Yeah, it will be. And if you look at that park over right now, like there's a trail all the way around the pond, this will tie into that, and it will tie into the pavilion with the handicap ramps, and then it'll be built. If you go up to the park, it will be built to the right behind the pavilion now, and that flat area kind of goes down and gets flat down there. That's where we looked at putting
I'm
it.
amazed at the number of people don't even know that's up there.
It's used a lot. And we have no playground equipment. We got fishing for the kids. We have no playground equipment. And this would be the first time Glenwood's applied for a park grant.
Yes, this is, in the past, when you had a fun park grant, it had to be a city that did not have any playground equipment. Then they changed the rules about 9 years ago, saying if you had one in the past, you could get one again, but it had to be at least 5 years. Since Glenwood has never had a fun park grant, we get the points for that. Where, like I said, being up against Norman, they had a fun park grant 9 years ago. Well, we're going to get more points than they get. It's kind of sad in a way for a small area to be discriminated against. But in this, Rick, you were asking what they were going to do. Kyron was there, Kyron Browning, who's with A.L. Franks, was talking about connecting the sidewalk to the existing pavilion, going down around, which would go around the playground equipment and attach to the sidewalk. And all that would be strictly playground equipment with the impact material, the fibers, and equipment for them to play on. And we would spend the full $100,000.
Would it be fenced to keep children from getting in the water?
No, I don't think you could do that. And one thing, you don't want anything somebody can hide behind. We looked at it, it's far enough from the road, it's right there by the pavilion, so the parents can keep a close eye on the kids.
Should keep a close eye.
Well, they should.
And like that
But
lady-
they don't always do that.
Like
And
that-
it's far enough from the water.
Like that lady from the park said, that we don't have a fence around the pavilion.
Right, right. But that's
Or around the
basically
lakes.
would probably where the parents would be.
So when will we get the results of that one?
Well, the application is due August the 14th, so if they usually invite the cities to a public hearing in October, and then they announce the award. We do need our informational volunteer pickup. I mean, whether it's just volunteers that go out and pick up the trash, we need a letter documenting that with at least 2 people, and that way we get our points.
That's already been done, but we can do it again.
Yeah. As long as it's done by, well, we could start at January 1 if it's been done in 2023.
We actually had County Hill School went over there and put the red bark around trees, picked everything up, fixed the deck. We could probably go back and get the kids that were on that. We probably had 50 over there working on that, didn't we? I'm guessing.
The chambers, I don't know who all was up at that there, but they did too.
Yeah.
Get with Miranda tomorrow because Cat Hill School we should already have that finished.
All right?
Okay?
And all I need to do is get your permission, and y'all have a resolution. So if you agree to it, if you'll pass the resolution tonight, that will give me information to put in the application.
Andy, is there anything else you see we need to do?
Not at this point. Not until you're funded.
We don't know if we're going to get funded. If we don't apply for it, we're not going to get it for sure. And it is a 100% grant. No, if you get it, it's 100% grant. That's why everybody's going to be applying for it.
But then you got to be used to Trestle Park.
Ma'am?
Does it just that, this is just.
It's just one part on this one, yeah.
$100,000 for one part.
Right.
It's not the Trestle Park.
No, it's just for playground.
I make a I say we do it, make a motion to do it.
Do we need to just make a motion in the resolution, or do you want to make a motion to accept the grant and then do the resolution, or is it two different things?
Someone needs to read the resolution, and y'all pass it.
Okay, so resolution 2303, whereas Glenwood, Arkansas recognizes the need to provide public recreation facilities for its local citizens and visitors, and whereas the city of Glenwood wishes to apply for the Fun Park grant funds through the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism to develop a public park at the following location, John Benjamin Industrial Park, whereas the mayor and the city council understands that if the grant funds for the park development, they must provide land by lease or ownership in which to develop park facilities. And whereas Glenwood, Arkansas will sign a contract agreeing to provide the necessary resources to maintain this park and facility for the period of 25 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of Glenwood, Arkansas hereby authorizes the mayor to submit an application for the grant funding to the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism to develop a public park. So there's the reading. Anybody want to have a motion?
I make a motion.
Jimmy Clark makes a motion, second.
I second it.
Carrie Brady seconds. Do I do a roll call on that? But Ken, if you want to.
We'll do a roll call, just to make it official like everything else. Jimmy Clark.
Aye.
Gary Brady.
Aye.
Chris Fuller.
Aye.
Alan Moore.
Aye.
All in favor.
I have one question, but I think I waited too late.
What's that?
Is it gonna mess the motion up if I do ask a question?
That's a question.
That's a question. We may have to back up, but yes.
If we're signing a contract to maintain it for 25 years, that's $4,000 a year, basically at the rate of inflation. Is it going to be something that we're going? I mean, are we going to be under in a situation that would put us like them saying we mandate that you do blah 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 and put us under? No, it's not. Okay.
They just ask that you maintain it, you keep it clean.
Right, basically just mow it and such.
Take care of it. And if you see that something's broke, remove it.
Right. Okay. I got you. I just want to clarify that.
Okay. So is that also maintaining the special ground? I know about the special ground, so if that gets torn up or something, the city will they be responsible for keeping that maintained for 25
About
years?
the impact materials.
Yes.
They should, if you keep the impact material fluff, it won't settle down so hard and dry. So when they go in to do the park and do the weed eating, if they would just get in there with a rake and kind of fluff it up, keep it dry. It will last a lot longer, but it will have to be replaced.
And it's expensive too, so they're going to keep that in mind.
It's not really that bad.
I have a friend of mine's general contractor. When I worked for him, we installed these playgrounds. And some of them places up to 15 years will send you the material to put back in because it's skid safe. So,
You said it lasted 15 years?
oh yeah, easy. I mean, it's all made kid safe friendly, but it's that new environment.
Yeah.
And as long as you if you had a flood and it washed out, you pull it back in. But some of them, he's had some in 6 years. They call and say, hey, this stuff's not holding up. He called and they send out all new supply because it's it's park stuff.
All right. Y'all cool with that? Next on the list, The bid came in on South First Street,
Did we ever
Louisiana.
vote on that, Billy?
We just did, let me ask you a question.
Okay,
We
that's right.
voted
I
on
was
it,
making sure we
yes,
don't have
especially had to vote on it,
that.
yeah. Okay, the next thing on the list, South First Street, Louisiana Avenue Water Main Replacement Project, bid recommendation, on that. Andy, you wanna explain that, or you?
I will. The city received bids on the South First Street water replacement project on May the 9th. We had one bid received. It was from G3J Excavation LLC. And their bid amount was $176,065. Our engineer's estimate for the project was $225,000, so we feel like that you got a good bid. And we have verified the references provided by G3J. In fact, we've had them on projects in the past, so we're familiar with them. And based on that, we recommend award to G3J for the South First Street, Louisiana Avenue Water Project for $176,065.
Andy, before they can be awarded, they have to be registered in SAMS, and they're not.
They are not registered
They
in
are not
SAMS.
registered in SAMS, but I am working with them.
Okay.
So it will probably be, he's supposed to be giving me all the information. It should be like a 2-week turnaround before, so he can't do we can't do a contract with him until he has the registration.
So could the award be contingent on the SAM.gov?
Yes.
So then they would need a motion with a contingency.
Right, award contingent on it.
Is that something to do with the minority contracting and all that stuff, them rules that kick in?
No, it has to do with the, years ago, we all had DUNS numbers.
Right, we're familiar with that.
Yeah.
I am.
So now the SAMS, it determines whether somebody's been suspended or disbarred from
Okay.
receiving federal grant
I
funds.
got it. Yeah.
And this is the American Rescue Funds, and it's federal.
And how much was the amount again?
$176,065.
And this is not coming out of water or sewer funds, it's coming out of the American Rescue Fund.
I'm aware of that.
Okay?
Is the company local, Tom?
Out of, the owner lives in Norman. That's one reason why he's less expensive. He don't have housing and he owns his own boring machine.
Right.
So he's got 2 pluses there. I don't think this is a bad bid. Him being local, he don't have lodging to pay for, and most contractors bid the boring out. He's a bigger boring contractor than anything, and this job's 60-70% bores.
A lot of it is.
I know it may not be that much, but there's a lot of boring in this job, so
Are we adding 2 new fire hydrants in this?
taking the ones out and replacing them.
There's 4 there? I thought there was only,
You are adding
I was
One.
fixing to say, 2. You only got 2 hydrants on First Street.
We're getting back in compliance. That's not there.
I got you. Okay. So were you going to the 500 foot instead?
No, you still won't be 500 feet.
Okay.
We're not 750 feet right now. This gets us closer to, it gets us like the rest of the town's place. First Street hadn't had anything done to it in forever.
No, I'm in total agreement. I was just asking.
Yeah.
We'll have to get a 2,000 foot water hose.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept G3J Excavation with the approval of their SAMS certification? Is that what you'd call it?
Registration.
Registration, okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Chris made a motion, Alan seconded. All in favor? Your roll call?
Aye.
Terry Brady, Chris Fuller,
Aye.
Alan Moore,
Uh,
all in favor.
Okay, number 8, on the money that's left out of this fund, we've got to spend it. I would like for y'all, the project on the cemetery lift station will run over budget, and we can spend that money there. Would y'all appropriate the balance? That's got specific spots that money's got to be spent, and that's already been approved. So I would make a motion that y'all allow the city to pay the balance that's in that fund on the balance of that account down there.
What's that amount?
Well, probably around 50. I'd have to get, it's probably $40,000 to $50,000 because Karen gets paid the administrative fee out of it each month till it's closed, and I'm not for sure where that's down to right now after this 176, but it was 225. So it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000.
I make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
No, they're not registered in Sam's either, so we're gonna need a contingency.
He's not registered in Sam's.
Huh?
The contractor's not registered, is what you're saying, right?
The one that you're talking about?
TJ.
Well, how they approved him? They approved him a year ago to do that project. Okay.
Will he have to bring in a
If we use
prime?
the American Rescue Funds, they have to be registered in Sam's.
So
Have you paid that so far?
I'm sorry.
I said,
Huh?
Through Coakley.
No. Oh,
The other project.
this project was started before I got here, so I'm lost on it.
So he's doing this from the grant, so
That's right, because he subbed under Coakley.
Okay,
I said
you're gonna have to
TJ
get him done,
could
or
still,
or you're gonna have to get him done, because he's already got the project started.
He won't do it. He won't do it. I've talked to him before.
no, that's what I was saying. TJ could still perform it, he would just have to pull in a prime and give him a 5 or 10%.
no.
No.
No, I mean, the prime can sub out whatever parts of that want to.
Grant.
If he's subbing under somebody else, it's their responsibility that
Correct.
he's not. And
That's-
there has been that happen, I know.
Right.
But as long as I'm not approving him, no.
No, you wouldn't be approving him. I'm saying we'll have to get a prime contractor.
You can't do that now, because y'all already let him have the bid.
How much total amount of money is with them in the American Recovery? What's the total amount right now?
Right now?
Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't matter.
Not telling you. I've got too many projects to tell you about.
Okay,
Subcontractor with them.
we're gonna have to fall back in 10 and punt on that. Y'all have done that before I got here, I'm gonna have to find out, so skip that one for
So
tonight.
what we're saying is he just won't register? Is that what you're saying?
Oh,
Yeah, that's what Karen said.
We need to find out what's going on there. It doesn't, I mean, if that's not true, then the money y'all have approved for him to do that project down there is gonna have to come out of the street, out of water and sewer money, not out of that. But anyway, I'll get back with you on that. I don't have the answer on that, okay?
So we're gonna table.
Have to table that, because I don't know the answer.
can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Right now, we're in dire straits down there.
He's gonna finish the
We've got to
job.
do it either way.
He's gotta finish the job.
Right.
But anyway, may have to do something else with the rest of that money that y'all thought y'all had allocated. We're gonna have to do quick, because we're gonna have to find out, but that money's gonna have to be used. So, I will get you an answer on that very quickly, as quick as I can. That's a problem, that's not a problem, that was done even, y'all did that a year ago. Approved that, so we'll figure it out. Okay, next, grant I would like you to apply for, will be, Andy, would you explain what we're looking at?
I will. This is a RDOT Transportation Alternative Program grant. It's a 80-20 match up to $500,000 on the grant amount. Anything above that will be the city's share. And this is for, if you remember, it's probably been, 10 years ago? We did the east side of Mountain View, added subsurface drainage, and put sidewalk in on top of it, and put curb and gutter. This project will do the same thing, but on the other side of the road. The benefit will be getting rid of the open ditch, putting in subsurface drainage, in addition to having the accessible sidewalk. So we put the, I don't know if y'all have this or not. We put cost on it, yeah. You have the cost in front of you, and there is a resolution, and I'm pretty sure that's the right number. So what you
What
do?
resolution have you got?
2304.
Okay.
What is the 2303?
Adopt a resolution, and then there's another document that goes along with the application.
For those of you who've gone out Mountain View Road is very narrow, and it's a very deep ditch, and this will only do, this money, this project is gonna have more drainage than anything we've ever done on a sidewalk project, because it's almost got some kind of drainage system under it. And hopefully we'll get Mountain View Road a lot safer. To me, we're shooting for this to get the drainage system fixed, and the sidewalks just addressing on top. because it's an 80-20 grant, and it's gonna cost a whole lot more than 20% to get the drainage problem fixed over there. Yes, ma'am?
Billy, Mr. Mayor, would that eliminate the flooding of the assisted living home if you fix that?
Yes, we're trying to get that very much addressed. And I have talked to Andy, and I'm hoping he can fudge that. Did you fudge that water, or is that as a separate alternate on the?
We have the cost in there to widen the gutter, but it's not been submitted yet, so we don't know what.
Okay.
There's a fire hydrant right there.
That'll be raised. There's 2 fire hydrants in there that have to be raised. What we are trying to do in this grant, and we don't know if it's all going to be approved, is to make the road 3 foot wider. So the curb instead of a 2-foot curb, you have a 5-foot curb if they'll go for it. If they don't, that may have to be a line item that the city makes up their mind if they want to make it 3 foot wider. We're hoping right now in the grant they will approve us to make the road. You'd have a curb that instead of a standard curb on a drain that's 2 foot, it'd be 5 foot. So we'll back the sidewalk up, get the road. That road needs wider through there. It is very dangerous. And this would get the road 3 foot wider if they'll approve it. If they don't, it'll be a deductive alternate, and I'd hope we could bring it back to council and do it anyway, but it's in the grant application.
Which is half the width of the car roughly.
5 foot total. Well, you're gonna gain
I'm just
3
saying
foot of good
it's
driving.
gonna help a lot.
It'll help a bunch.
A lot.
And we're going to be getting to the back of City Street if we go much wider than that anyway. So
Where's it gonna start at?
it'll start at 70 and go to Smoky Bear. That gets all the bad stuff. Won't go any further than Smoky Bear. You're out of money anyway. But that would be Smoky Bear is where the bad, all the way down through there is where the bad part is.
Do you know how how they gonna do them mailboxes?
We've got to go fix the other ones.
I'm just curious because I get knocked down all the time.
That's the challenge when you have mail carriers trying to deliver when you have sidewalks, so.
It has to be wheelchair accessible.
We've got to go back. Karen and I looked at that the other day. Somebody had complained, and the city's got so much work going on right now. I haven't got it done. We're going to have to go back and put mailbox posts and get the mailbox to where we're handicap accessible on several of our sidewalks. People are setting their own 5-gallon buckets up, and they're not handicap accessible. And we're going to have to go back, and we'll talk with them and their design. When we do this next, we'll get them to put a post down that we can drop a post in. We'll probably have to put red heads and anchor, but the city's going to have to go back and put some mailbox posts up and tell everybody that's where the mailbox has got to be. We got to get that back handicap accessible. That was brought to our attention. We're aware of it. We're trying to get stuff done, but that's priority.
The
But
reason I asked, it looks like last time you just stuck a mailbox in there and concrete around it.
Right, we're looking at a 5 foot wide sidewalk, but 36 inches is the minimum for ADA compliance. So somewhere in that other 2 feet is where the mailbox posts will be set.
But we've got to get that. We're aware of the way some people are putting their their mailboxes in, and we're going to have to get that
The
addressed.
sleeve would be nice if you just slide a fold before down
Right.
Okay?
Right.
We need to make a motion to apply for this grant.
Yes.
Okay, so this ordinance is going to be
Resolution.
not ordinance, resolution is going to be 2304.
Billy got a question.
Yes.
I live on a couple doors up from the assisted living, coming back toward the center. They just came through and put in a brand new sewer line that's not 2 foot off the pavement.
Sewer line can be under that. It'll be fine. It's good line. It'll be,
Under the sidewalk?
huh?
It'll be into the sidewalk.
Yes.
They put in.
That'll be fine. They'll bring the manhole riser rings up flush with the sidewalk.
Oh, so if they have a break in it, they just have to tear up the sidewalk.
Well, hopefully it's a PVC line. Hopefully it'll be there for the next 40, 50 years. But
Next
They
mayor
did a
can
great
deal
job of
with
putting it
Huh?
in.
it. The next mayor can deal with
everybody's got water lines and sewer lines under streets and sidewalks. There's nobody you can't get around that. That's part of.
it. Even hot springs,
It's, if you got water and sewer and sidewalks and streets, they're gonna be under
Come
them.
Mark Baker Road here a while back, the guy looked at it and he said everything's right in the middle of the road, other than just about
You're
that,
gonna dig a road over.
that much.
Okay? Any other questions? Read the resolution.
Okay, resolution 2304, a resolution expressing the willingness of the city of Glenwood, Arkansas to utilize federal aid, transportation alternative program, or recreation trails program funds. Whereas the city of Glenwood, Arkansas understands federal aid, transportation alternatives program, or recreational trails program funds are available to at 80% federal participation and 20% local match to develop or improve Mountain View sidewalk improvements. Whereas the city of Glenwood, Arkansas understands that federal aid funds are available for this project on a reimbursement basis requiring work to be accomplished and proof of payment prior to actual monetary retribution. And whereas this project using federal funding will be open and available for use by the general public and maintained by the applicant for the life of the project. Now, therefore, be resolved by the City Council that Section 1, City of Glenwood, Arkansas will participate in accordance with the designated responsibility, including maintenance of this project. Section 2, the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to execute all appropriate agreements and contracts necessary to expedite the construction of the above state project. Section 3, the City Council pledges its full support and hereby authorizes the Arkansas Department of Transportation to initiate action to implement this project. This resolution may or may not be adopted on this day.
Do I have a motion to accept resolution 2304?
I make the motion.
You have a second? Kerry Brady made the motion.
I'll second it.
Jimmy Clark seconded. All in favor? Roll call.
That's fine, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So are y'all gonna contact the people that have yards that you'll put a sidewalk on and make sure it's okay, or is just?
It'll be in city street right away. We won't be on anybody's
I know
private
one
property.
street, they were complaining somebody's car was stuck in their yard, they couldn't get it back out. You got something there.
That's the Third Street, I think, yeah.
They've got all, anyway, okay, all that's fixed as far as I know.
Is there a set amount of money, or does it go on forever? It says, using federal aid, alternative funds, like $800 basis. But I mean, 500,000 or 800,000, or is there a ballpark figure?
Yeah, it's right there in the bid, Sharon. 700, the project could be $735,671, and it'd be $500,000 grant for a city's match of $235,671.25.
Oh, I got you again. So again, it was how much, Bill?
235, and then the RDOT administration bill would be 240. And this project, if approved, would be 2 to 3 years out. This is not a project that's going to be done next year.
No, sir.
This is probably a 3-year out project, realistically. Okay, next on the list, we're through with the paving, and we had talked about, while the paver was here, doing a little more paving. I need y'all to approve the the price of $155,167.55.
That's all that extra we talked about.
That's all the extra you talked about, yes.
Which one's this, number 10? Item number 10?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the payment.
Yeah, this has been discussed and looked at.
All of you looked at it.
Right.
Yeah, was this
I'll
is
second that motion.
Okay, we got a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 okay. Next grant. There is a application for $300,000, up to $300,000 at 75-25 matching. we're working on one of those projects right now on 70 Bridge and the culverts out on Rock Creek Road. That was a 75-25 grant project, and that money is available for a grant slot again this year. We have started taking pictures, have not got complete, and Karen is not ready for application. I'm just showing you what's doing. Looking at the culverts that need replacing. This is a 75-25 grant for culvert replacement in the city limits. I do not have all of that, but we've got to get Karen Howe's application. We got to hurry up and get it in.
We
But
need to have notice of intent submitted by May the 31st and we can submit up to 3 different projects. We need to put priority of project 1, 2, and 3. So if there is enough of money out there, we might have more than one project funded. But it will do replacing low water crossings and existing bridges with elevated bridge, critical infrastructure retrofits to reduce natural hazard risk, construction of retention and detention basins, generators for critical facilities, bank stabilization, install or upsizing culverts, other activities that reduce the risk from natural hazards within the jurisdiction.
okay. We are not complete on this, but if y'all want to apply for it, we got to get to working on it and get it applied for. This is just some of the stuff that we found out about this. I found out about this yesterday, so it's quick, but you've got a deadline of May the 1st. So if y'all want to apply for it, we'll get paperwork filled out to do it. It'll be culvert replacement would be the bad culverts that need replaced, and I don't even know where they all are in the city. That's something Karen and Britt will have to work on to get culverts.
So there's more than just this right here?
He worked on this today. This is it.
Oh.
It's worked on.
And this is a co-op grant.
This is 75-25 grant.
Yes, and the way it's been in the past, the city could always use their in-kind labor as the 25%. Judge Howard said he heard the same thing at the last workshop. I have a phone call in to verify that fact with Arkansas Division of Emergency Management.
Okay, so this one thing, we don't have to have an engineer if it's not bridge work, correct? On these,
If
or
you did the bridges, you would.
if we do anything on bridges, we would, but
Yeah, the culverts or the generator, you wouldn't have to. But
okay,
if you were to replace the low water crossings and existing bridges with an elevated bridge, you definitely would need an engineer.
and we're not going to do that. But if they vote to do this, when do we have to get all the paperwork in for you to get filed? By May?
I need to submit that notice of intent by May the 31st.
Okay.
So what do you need from us?
Next week.
I need your approval to go ahead and start working.
A motion to apply for this?
Yes.
Working on it.
Yes.
I make a motion to apply
I'll
for this
second.
grant.
Motion made by Kerry Bray, seconded by Alan Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The next thing in y'all's package is quite a few emails and quite a few, everything concerning what people have got on Facebook and accused the city of Glenwood of having pumping sewer into the river. And Health Department issued warnings on the river with nothing confirmed. As of today, you have your first test back. And for those of you who have this packet, we'll go over it. And I'm kind of upset that everybody puts on Facebook and thinks they know what's going on when they don't have a clue. It would be nice if people would ask before we destroy the business on the river. But we took 8 samples. We'll take samples in the morning. If anybody don't think we're doing samples correctly, at 7 o'clock in the morning at City Hall, you can go with us while we take the samples. We will do pH and DO. The city's crews will do that. We will get the samples boxed up, and I will escort them. Unless y'all want to ride with me, you can escort me to Arkansas Analytics. We'll do the lab testing and give that to our city engineer and give it to the state health department and ADEQ.
So that means the stuff you put in there sealed the leaks?
We did not have a leak. That was preventative. They accused us of having a sewer leak. There is some water in all those swamp areas in there. We don't know where it's coming from. So our engineer said, as a preventative thing, do you get tests back? We put 24,000 pounds of bentonite against the levee. We put dye in it before you ever put that in there. There's no dye. There's no colored water come out, blue or red. We put blue in it first. We put red in it second. Health Department ADQ's been aware of all this. Now, I will agree that the lady down there was a bad stink, and I don't know what that is. We hadn't got to the bottom of that issue. But it's not. We're going to look at all the tests we made, and I'll show you the results, and we'll look at it. And the river's safe to be in, people.
Are you talking about the pond, or are you?
I'm talking about the pond. I'm talking about Trestle Park. I'll go through Trestle Park, and where you're accusing us tearing a sewer line out, it ain't happened. There's no sewer line been touched down there. We filled up the picture she put on that says an antique cemetery. That's the concrete barriers around where the city's lift station used to be that pumped in that pond back in the 60s and 70s.
You had the equipment damaged, you know?
The equipment was down there tearing down trees that were dead trees, and we cleaned up. I'll put pictures of that up for everybody to see. We're trying to make, the cemetery has told the people they can't park down there anymore. So the city has land where that's at. We did cut some dead trees. We cut a couple of live trees. Most of them were dead. 80% of what you took out was dead, right?
Yes.
You took out 2 to 3 live trees?
Two live trees and about 4 dead.
Okay. And that's why the park was closed. It was not closed because of a sewer leak, but I couldn't answer anything on Facebook till I knew. So all you Facebook posters that want to, you need to take this right here and post on Facebook so everybody knows the truth.
Didn't you tell me though that where that water was running in there? Coming out of the pond?
I told you I didn't know. There's iron and manganese in there that's making that red. We know. I don't know what that is.
I don't mean this spot over here. I'm talking about where it was rushing down into the river. Coming up with the trestle.
That coming out of the trestle, that one spot is where those pictures that the lady put on of red that stink, and I agree it stinks. And the city was not going to make an opinion. We weren't going to get on Facebook and do like the people that judge without knowing what they're doing until I got the facts. Now, we did samples because everybody wants samples done the day it was raining. That was the first day we could get samples done. Because you got certain time limits, you got to get these samples to the guy up there. And by the time we got everything lined up that day and looked at everything, it was too late to get samples up there. So we took them the next day raining. If you want the samples of when it was raining, the total river was 13,300 parts of coli. That's the whole river, all the way. So nothing in the river was safe to be swimming in while it was raining. Okay? These results are from the waterways that are running as of yesterday. Well, we hadn't got flood water everywhere, and we hadn't got, cows in the pasture and chicken litter is a coli. When it rains, it gets into your water system. It gets into the river. It's always going to be. Unless we get rid of cows and human beings and everybody else. But anyway, let's go over, and I'll show you the 8 sample points we're taking with 8. We're doing this under the direction of ADQ and the Health Department. They have a list of this recorded on Google Earth, and they know exactly the locations we're taking the samples from. If any of you won't go with us, put you some boots on in the morning, and you better get ready for briars and ticks, because it ain't fun getting these. But you're welcome to go. We're leaving at 7. But the first number 8 sample point, which because the first day we had other samples that we continue to do, the number 1 sample point, or number 8, is the high water bridge. Has nothing to do with anything downstream, correct? Does everybody agree with that? The high water bridge is out from all of that. Okay? 172 parts per million. According to the Health Department, they want the river to be under 125 for safety in the water, okay? You go on down the river. Everybody knows where the gravel bar is down there before you get to the trestle, the big gravel. You know where the big gravel bar is and the river turns? That was the 48, right? 48. See the 48 down, sample number 2? That's, where the big gravel bar is before the trestle down there, back on upriver. Your parts per million there is 48. One of the reasons why you're seeing these differences in the river of coli, the water is not moving as much up there at the high water bridge as it is in that curve. So your coli's going to be less because you got faster moving water, right? Andy, kinda? The next sample down, the one where she smelt the smell, is 488. That's high. But the next sample down, y'all know where the concrete ramp is there that everybody goes swimming at? It's 93. Anything under 125, health department considers no danger, period. So swimming hole right there that everybody says we're dumping raw sewer into is 93. Glenwood has never released any raw sewer. There could be seepage out of that pond, and all of this controversy is going to cost the city somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million to put a liner in that pond. But just be thankful we got Facebook so we get the health department involved in it. And when we come to you to spend $500,000 to $1 million to put a liner in that pond, just be thankful of what Facebook does for you when you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm upset.
So did you get the sewer plant working, the clarifier is working again and all that?
We've got one clarifier still down. It's being replaced. We got 2 lift stations, 2 pumps being put in lift stations down there.
Billy, you told us down there at the river that it was seepage under the ground.
We told you that it could be, and that's the reason the city wasn't going to say anything till we got tests back.
Okay.
There's no leakage there.
I wanted to clarify that because you did say that.
I told you we didn't know.
Well, you said it was probably.
I have a question. Where did KARK get their information?
Because somebody calls the health department around here that likes to be calling and says, I know what's going on, and they have no evidence of it, but we get any answer how they could. I don't know how they can do that.
I mean, that's where I get my news. It's the news.
Yep.
And that's,
When I
and
seen
it's
that
bad
on-
news.
It's all fake. It's not real.
When I seen
All
that
you
on
do
the
is
news,
call them, tell them something, and they'll put it on there. It's all.
But sample 5 reading going on with this is back up that little tributary that goes back on the side by the railroad track and the pond. Before you get, that reading is 74 in that water. Okay?
Way below.
Huh?
It's way below.
Okay, you're going up and where we thought there might be a leakage. Well, the first one was 56, way on down there by coming up about 500 feet up from the sample right there at the trestle is 56. The 74 reading is where the pipe was that we thought there was water running out of those old sloughs in there, and we thought that might be. That's a 74. Now then, the one that's concerning, and we have no idea what's going on, up behind the depot, completely out of anything to do with the city pond or the city pump station or anything down there, we've got an 866. I don't know whose that is. That could be a city sewer line leaking back up the street. I don't know what it is. It could be somebody's septic tank running in there.
Well, then you should be grateful that it was pointed these things out. Because now you know that.
Well, that's true. We know it. We're going to get some more tests done, but we probably cost the city this little conversation on Facebook and calling the health department. Be happy you've cost the city somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, because you will put a liner in the pond if you get to keep using it.
On sample, Philly, where it was 488, that was where the one was reported in.
That's right, and the thing that's going on right there, the two samples that we took out are on the water side closest to the pond, and there's 2 little tributaries running down through there, and that 444 sample comes back upstream, back upstream, and then it would get in the full creek side of the creek down through there. It's possible something all the way up there. There's something going on up behind, but when you get to the river, no matter what, you're a 93. Okay? So everybody's saying you can't float in the river. The health department says anything. There's a lot of rivers more than 125, but in 125, I think 125 is what the health department wants it to be under, and you're at 93 where everybody's swimming down there.
I gave my back to Jimmy. What was the part that's coming like down behind the depot and all of that?
That is the worst. That is the bad reading.
66.
That's the one that's coming down through town.
Coming from town, 866. But that's not ever. You're not ever getting that level
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this doesn't need to be investigated, but this may or may not have anything to do with the city. I don't have it. We could have a city sewer main cracked up there somewhere. We could have somebody's septic tank system leaking in up there.
What was the sample 7 and then 602?
That is the pond itself,
Okay. The old sewer pump.
the old sewer pond. And we are taking about 4 inches a day of that pond out and taking it to the sewer plant right now. We're in the process. ADQ wants the pond totally drained. We're going to drain it. Well, okay, that's great. That's great news. Let's drain it. And don't complain at me when it comes a 5-inch rain and we got 2 million gallons of water to go and it's going to go through the sewer plant. The sewer plant's washing out and we're going to put it out. We hold it there and we're not washing out at the sewer plant. If you notice, your tests for the last 5 years have been coming back good because we put all that excess water in the pond and we take it back to the sewer plant and we can handle it. If that pond is shut down and we can't handle it and all that hits the sewer plant, that sewer plant can't handle 2 million gallons of water a day. It's going to wash it out. Everything's going into the river. So you got to say you got to figure out which way you want to work this. You'd rather have something in the sewer pond, or you'd rather wash the sewer plant out. You got 2 options, not one single. If you don't have that pond working, the reason it was put back online is to do exactly what its function is. And we put sewer in there, some because of this work that shouldn't have been in there. That was this daily water, not flood water. We did, but that's not what's leaking out. That's something we got to get that pump station all put back in and fixed, and that should never happen again. But that didn't get out into the river. Okay?
Where'd it come from?
Well, and it come on.
You tell me, 866. If you can go find it, the city of Glenwood don't know. We're searching, but if you can go find where it is and tell me who it is, behind the depot on up, let's find it.
It's up against the tracks, the sewer pond is, and there couldn't be anything going on that side of it, so it has to be coming out from under the ground.
It's not, the 866 level is behind the depot. There's no way anything from that sewer pond can go back upstream. It won't go there. It ain't happening. So,
Is it above the sewer pond, like where it's like the upper
To the
end of the
north
sewer
side.
pond?
the leak, the 866,
Yeah.
you know where the old depot is sitting beside the gym? You know where the big culvert is behind the gym and the depot?
There's that caboose.
The caboose in the depot. That 866 sample is pulled right at that culvert.
Before you continue, what you're looking at, we all didn't get one. And I know he's got to have his back and all that. So could we have some copies?
We'll make all of them you want.
Thank you, Billy. I just know they have it.
Now then, all the rest of this correspondence cancel. I didn't make a packet of that for everybody. That's all my correspondence in the last 3 days with ADQ, the health department, and our engineer in analytics, Arkansas Analytics. That's all the documentation that goes with that. And as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, there's one sheet that was laying there that wasn't there. That was the answer that went back to the health department, or went back to ADQ at 5 o'clock this afternoon, or 5:30, whenever I got it at 5, whenever it was, 5:30 I think, is when A.L. Frakes did the answer to ADQ for us on the samples that come back today, and told them our plans for tomorrow. So we are diligently working on this. The river is safe to be in right now. And I'm quite sure that we won't get the nice response from everybody from Glenwood that loves Glenwood so much that's run us down. I'm quite sure our Facebook post will not be positive so we can get canoe business back to Glenwood. We'd rather tear the town down. And I'm quite sure KARK won't retract their statement.
Billy, my grandson, he's in canoes in that river every day, and I want it to be safe for him, and I haven't put anything on Facebook, so don't yell at me.
I'm yelling at where the shoe fits, wear it. And I'm talking about KARK more than anybody.
That's a spring, so you can quit lying to my friends, because they send me.
You're a
texts.
good one.
You're
talking about assassinations and stuff.
Okay,
Back to the meeting.
back to the meeting. I don't have the one page.
Hold on, we have a question.
Okay.
Are we going to try to address the KRK misinformation here, so that maybe, hopefully, the right thing is being said, that, hey, this is not a problem, the river is safe. Because right now, from my understanding, that they're saying from the 70 bridge all the way down to the 82 bridge.
And then it was
Should not be in the water.
Like,
I have no idea, but
There is a group of people here who hate the canoe industry in general, and they will do any and everything they can to destroy it. They will destroy the city of Glenwood. This will turn into another USA Dog Patch, Arkansas joke about all these cities that go downhill.
They got it
They are
for
trying their
Clover.
best
They
to
got it for
destroy it.
Clover Hardy or Clover McKenzie or Clover whatever her name is.
my question is, that are we going to try to address them and let them
I will have more samples back Friday, and I will, Andy,
I'll get screened.
they are trying to address, I talked to Dean Marlin, isn't it Dean?
No,
Dean, what's his name?
Richard Healy,
Well, Healy's from ADQ.
Dennis
Right.
Taylor.
Dennis Taylor, I talked to him at the health department. I've talked to Richard, I've talked to our lady that's with ADQ. I don't know where this all blew up, because the health department told me they need to wait on the numbers. And then the next thing I know, it's all, and we wouldn't pull numbers in the rain. I waded water that deep to get, because we had to pull water from specific spots in the river. And I was that deep in water that day, and I've got those test results too. It's 1330, the whole river is. There's no need in going there.
I'm getting calls every day of
But-
customers from Louisiana, even Texas.
Yeah.
They're wanting to know what's going on with the river. Is it safe?
We're going to get, I think, I can get,
I got something on.
Andy, can we get, y'all can get a little more aggressive after we get the samples back Friday on,
Yeah, well, we can, yeah, we can. I don't know what we can do with the health department.
I'm just saying, I mean, they're seeing what
I just want to say something.
KARK is posting, and everybody else. And
Maybe we can, after we get our samples, ask the health department if they can submit it to KRK.
Hey, what?
Thomas. Safety.
I think so too.
Thomas, when I seen that article the other day, I just tell you, just as a citizen, it made me sick, and I'll tell you why. I've also got a real estate license, and yeah, I need to help you sell your place. I tell you what, anyway, the situation is when you Google anything in the future related to buying a piece of property, going floating, or anything like that, it's going to pop up for many, many years. And that made me sick. I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
Saying this, and
And then it can be a disclosure that has to be made on a property sale or anything. It can just haunt us forever. And man, we've got to either love Glenwood or get the crap out of here.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm asking. Is there something that you guys are trying to do to address this problem?
Yes, sir.
This misinformation.
Can our city lawyer do
do
anything
anything.
calling
I
them?
think our engineer is the best way to try to address it. There's not a lawyer, there's not anything you're gonna, the engineer's presenting our case.
Just like she said, that's where she gets her
We need a
message.
statement from the health department.
Okay.
And they're in that they know all of this as long as DEQ. So if we get a statement from the health department.
The problem is, even if they retract it, still damage is done.
Right, right. They get
Yeah.
the bad information
Right.
out there.
So the damage is done, sort of, but we're going to try to get a statement from the health department saying
All the
that
state health
was incorrect.
department
We will-
was covering their tail.
We have sent the letter to Andy or Karen from A.L. Frank sent the letter to ADQ today. That will be forwarded to the health department on these results, and we'll do it again Friday. We're going to do it. The samples pulled tomorrow morning won't be available. It's a 24-hour sample testing, and you can't get the results back. If we get them there before noon tomorrow, we might have them at 2 or 3 o'clock Friday. And that's as early as you can't make this work any faster.
Just saying they come back and they're good. I mean,
I have no doubt that they're not going to be.
Exactly.
But
So, can we not get a hold of KARK and say, hey, look, guys, I don't know where y'all got this information, but it's wrong.
that's not news. They won't reprint a retraction. They're happy to run you, news media, news reporters, and Facebook are happy to destroy you, but nobody's very happy to retract what they said. So, anyway,
Yeah, we can.
let's move on. I got some other business, because I got some good news from the health department here.
We need good news.
Finally, something good. As of May the 8th, 2023, our
We're not
filter...
gonna spread that around though.
Don't spread the good stuff around. As of May the 8th, 2023, Glenwood did pass on its refilter rating. Our plant is now rated at 1.572 million gallons a day.
That's the new what we.
That's where we did our permits on our filters.
What was we rated at before, like
1.1.
Yeah.
All right. Trestle Park. That's been another interesting thing on Facebook. We had Trestle Park shut down for no other reason than to cut dead trees down. And the Cemetery Association, the president of that, has told the people they cannot park in a cemetery next year. She wants them out of there. If you got a question with that, she's sitting right there. But the city has tried. They were saying, where can we find some parking? The city owns the land where the old pump station was, and you look at all the pictures posted on Facebook by Sharon. Since she's the one that did them and she's the one after me, I'm going to start naming names right back. Sharon posted the pictures. The pictures show the top of the old wet well, the manholes, the valves, and there was a concrete frame around where the chain link fence used to go that all the controls went in. The city went over there and cleaned that up. The city did cross cemetery property. What I found, we couldn't get in there. In that wet well, somebody broke the lid off of the wet well. There's a 2 by 3 foot opening, and the wet well's 20 foot deep. I told them to back up in there till we could get a road in there, and we did go across cemetery property, and for that I'm sorry, Sharon, but I wanted the hole filled up in the wet well so no kid could get in it. The hole is filled up. Then 2 or 3 days after that is when we started cutting the trees down, trying to get ready for spring down there. We closed the park because we didn't want people driving down there cutting trees down and all the brush that was in the way. It was a bunch of mess in there. There was that one tree out in the center. We cut down probably 4 trees that were roughly 24 inches in diameter. And I didn't want them ground down. I want them dug out so we can get grass back on that and have a nice park one day. So did I cut the trees down and take the dead trees out? I instructed the city employees to do it, and I don't regret it a bit. And in trying to get parking for the rest of the patrons that's been down there for years, that's not going to be allowed to park in the cemetery this year for some reason, we're going to bring them up. We put a culvert in, and we're going to bring them up back in that area where that lift station was, and we're going to park there. And those should be in the pictures, probably in your packet here. I'll have to look and find them. Okay, if you start looking at these pictures right here, that work right there, we did not tear out any sewer mains. It was raining that day and water was everywhere and it was a mess. We didn't tear out any sewer mains. There's no sewer mains over there first off to tear out. There used to be back in the 70s, 60s and 70s. But those 3 pictures there, that is not finished. We're trying to make a parking area for people that normally come down there and use that park and have used it for years, and we're not going to be allowed to use the cemetery parking this year. Okay?
It's looking really nice where you are doing that. We've never had.
Okay, I don't care whether they did or whether they didn't. You don't want them in there, we're not going to put them in there, Sharon. That's the end of it.
Volunteer, I'm not the board, okay? And I don't, again, you're the one that's been yelling at everybody.
Okay. I am upset, so my voice is probably at an elevated level. Because I'm not for destroying Glenwood, Sharon.
Nor am I.
Yeah, you are. But anyway, let's move on. Now then.
What you've done to the sewer treatment plant is one reason to destroy Glenwood, and you know it.
Something nasty all over them, and she said it came out of that deal. That's what started the whole thing.
Well, she said she saw feces.
She saw feces.
She was lying.
Well, maybe she is, Donna, but you are too.
No, I'm not.
You're the biggest liar in here.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, hang on just a second, everybody. There wasn't any feces in that because I went down and looked at it. It was
I did
red.
not say that. I said it's bubbling up and foaming. I don't believe it's an arterial. I don't believe it's an oil well. I don't believe it's some kind of gusher. I don't believe it's rusty water. I don't have a clue what it is,
but I didn't damage it at all. I never said anything besides, whoa, somebody has damaged this with heavy equipment, and you said you did. Why
We
is that
did not damage
a liar?
anything with heavy equipment, Sharon. Did we tear out stumps? Absolutely. Did it look rough in there while we were doing it? You bet it did.
Billy, it did yesterday, Angel. It did
Honey,
yesterday.
ma'am, when you tear out stumps and dig out a stump 8 foot deep, and by the time you get the roots out of it, it's 14, 15 foot across, till you get the gravel back in there and get it settled down, it's going to look rough. I agree. But we didn't tear up anything but some tree roots.
I'm not talking about the trees, Billy. I'm talking about the stuff coming out of the ground over there, the damaged stuff. Yesterday, Billy, it's not water, okay? It's not rusty water. Or maybe it is. Let's call National Geographic and say, we've got some geological thing happening here that nobody else in the world has.
I'll make a motion that we just put the trees back up.
Anyway, that's next thing on the part of the trestle park that we need to talk about.
Metal tops don't bust.
We've had canoers interested in getting access to load and unload people on the park. And nobody wants it to cross the park.
Nobody wants it at the park.
Nobody wants, your concern to me has been the kids are going to get run over if we're crossing down the park with it.
Billy, I know you don't care what the former councilman did, but Councilman John Powell and the council 2 years ago said no more commercial vehicles down there. And for the past 2 years, canoe companies, and I praise God, I love all the canoe companies. The canoe companies found other places to be. You have almost 800 linear feet of plyler footage right there by Plylers. Maybe they can do it there. Allen's got property on the river. Up until last month, for the past 2 years, the canoes have not gone down there. It's the only place left for free access to the river. You have river property, he has river property, the McGrews have river property, the Bakers have river property. My goodness, Patty Parker's daughter and her mother have river property. The rest of us are just folks, okay? Just families that want to take their kids down and let
Hey,
them
I'm just
swim.
a folk too, Miss Sharon. I'd like a rebuttal on that. I'm just a folk too. I started out with basically nothing but a good name.
Why?
Hey, listen, I let
I'm
you talk.
talking, I have the floor.
No,
I have the floor. I was talking to
You
Mayor,
took
not
the
you.
floor. Just listen to me just a second. We sit up here for 4 hours. You come in here about an hour or two late most of the time, leave early, we'll do whatever you do, and blast it on Facebook before we even get our meeting closed. And I've worked for the things that I've got. God has blessed me tremendously. I'm very proud of these things. I don't want to commercialize the piece of property that I have right now. Billy may want to commercialize it. I have no idea. But I am the only one that voted against the very thing that you're trashing me out for.
I'm
So,
not trashing you out
I mean,
for
I hate to
anything.
say it. You can finish the sentence, but you can put up there and kiss my...
Okay, let's go. Let's move on. Let's look at what the option is, because nobody wants to take a chance on getting the kids run over. Nobody wants to go back in the part of the park that's being used. If you look at the front picture that I presented to the council tonight, you see the sign that says game and fish and whatever all that is right there. If you look at that back under the power lines that's crossing the river right there, there's a spot right there that the commercial canoers and the private canoers that would like to unload a canoe, because there's tons of those. And the problem I have at my store, I have a lot of people come to my store with a canoe and they want to get into the river. They don't have access. We need to allow them access to get into the river. This is public access, and this is a city park, and it can be commercial access. This will not, if you look at that picture, flip the next page and look at that picture, flip the next page, if everybody knows where the old bridge was, and look at that picture from their back, they've got plenty of room to work in there, and guess what? They haven't gone into the park yet.
And that needs cleaned up.
That needs cleaned up. And they're willing to pay for the concrete for the ramp. we've talked to game and fish. We're fine with game and fish. We've got no restriction with game and fish on it.
Excuse me. We also would file for our permit with DEQ. It's all being reviewed. They said they don't see any problem with it. I should have the final permits any day. And we're not trying to go destroy the environment. We're not trying to run over kids. Our drivers are all good drivers. We wouldn't have them on our insurance if they were not good drivers. We have not killed any children. We have not killed any babies. We have not done jack squat. I've got my entire life savings invested in my business over there, and all these people sitting around on Facebook wanting to destroy not just me, but anyone who has anything at all to do with canoes or kayaks. They sit back. We hate the canoers. We hate the kayaks. We bring a tremendous amount of money into this community, tax dollars and everything else, and it'll help make up budget shortfalls, whatever. It's people just sitting around just running their mouths. That's not cool. That's because of the people here. I have kept my language at least partially PG, but I'm like Mr. Flowers. I'm not happy with all the Facebook crap.
And I do owe you an apology, and I present it to you for speaking that way. But anyway.
Okay, council, after we went down there and y'all talked the other night about going back in the back and everybody got up in arms about gonna run over and kill every kid that comes to the river down there. That's, that wasn't their intent. So we backed up and re-looked at this. This gives access to everybody to get their canoe in and out, not just those commercial canoers, private individuals that need to get in and out, that need a place to go. This gives them a place to get in and out. And if you look at that, it's not in any part of the park. Is it the road down to the park? It is. It's not in the park. And it won't be part of the park because they would stop. If you look at that over there, they would stop at where the old bridge is. From there to the left, to the left. Sir?
It's into our property. How far back we own over there?
You own roughly that tree line, maybe somewhere over in there.
To the left of the sign.
So do we need to make a motion to,
If y'all want to do it, y'all need to make a motion.
I make a motion that we move the access to by the sign.
A second.
Kerry made a motion, Jimmy Clark seconded. Voice, roll call, please.
Jim Clark?
Aye.
Kerry Brady?
Aye.
Chris Fuller?
Aye.
Alan Moore?
No, I think there's a better way to do it.
Okay. Motion passes 3-1.
Okay. Alan Moore on taps.
All right. My concern on taps was here, not very long ago. It was during not the prior administration, but the administration preceding that, which Bridget was intro. But our water sewer taps comparable. Okay, I'll just give you a few examples of the water sewer taps. Just some numbers. Hang on, let me let them finish up over there. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, they're trying to talk up here in the front.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Kimsey Water, same side of the road, is $960. Boring fees $1,500 plus, and Murfreesboro $275 in the city limits. Meter with a bore is $2,000. Without a bore, it depends on how much the bore costs. North Pike County, roughly $1,500. It varies. It's with or without a bore. They kind of do it sort of like we do, the way I understand it. Arkadephian is $325, and then with the bore is an additional $500. What I would like to see the city consider, and they don't have to vote on it tonight, but I think this affects our growth, and I think it affects our poor people, and just from a perspective of buying two pieces of property, if you're looking at that property, first thing you're gonna nearly say is, does it have services available? Well, if it has gas, electric, water, and everything, sewer, and it's all right there, it's gonna bring a premium price, as opposed to a piece of property that they say, yeah, it's got water, you can get water here, but it's over there, and electric's over there, and and you might have to do a contract with energy to get electric. You might have to do, get somebody to do bore under a state highway, whatever. So I would like to see us drop our water sewer tap down, or look at dropping it down to where it was conducive to growth and inspiration. But when the water sewer tap costs more than some of our city lights, I think we've kind of crossed a breaking point. And I'd like to see us back it up somewhere around $1,000. And then if you need boring, then you pay for boring, or pay city co-ops you on the boring. If we pick a co-op number, we co-op 50% or 40% or whatever it is. And,
what is our taps now?
Huh?
Our tapping fee is $1,200. That's long or short side service.
I got a price the other day. It was $18.75 for a water sewer tap.
Well, you said water sewer. That's two taps.
I understand that, but that's my point. I wasn't finished with my presentation. I'm saying that by the time that, if you're on the line about whether you want to be right outside the county or within the county, and you're thinking of whatever, I don't want to see us be one of them communities that something big that creates a vacuum comes in between here and Hot Springs, which it's coming, and then people flock to outside the city limits, and we're giving them all the services for none of the revenue. So I'd like to see us get the moms and dads, and then they'll have the kids, and then the kids and the grand. I'd like to see more of our water meter base climb and not go down because we're making it harder to get in the city. To me, I would lower that sucker as low as I could get it to get more people in the city. So it would just help us across the board. And that's something I would like to see the council consider. And I like about a minute, and then I'll just move to table my own issue till the next meeting, let y'all do your own research and get your own ideas, figure out what you think. I just want us at the end of the day to where someone could come in here that was poor or whatever and say, hey man, I need water and sewer at my place, and would you tack it on my bill, or zero, or do something for me, and let me help me get going here, because I want, maybe my daughters one day need a water sewer tap, and I don't want to have to go to the First State Bank or Southern Bank Corp to get started. And I'd like to see it go down. And we're already paying for the city workers. They're already taxed for all the equipment. We just approved stuff to buy new equipment the other day. I'd like to set it pretty close to the dead cost of what it cost us to do it. What it costs, not the labor. We're already paying for the labor. But I feel like, I asked the former mayor 2 times back, I guess it would be. I asked him one time, I said, why is the water sewer rates, the taps, keep going up? And he said, well, look at it like if you was a contractor. And I said, okay, explain that to me. He said, just say I called you and I said, all right, you bring your Traco out here and you put in a water sewer tap for such and such. And he said, how much would you do it for? I said, that's not even comparing the thing. And he said, why? I said, because the workers already work for the city. So if we do it for cost, then you can't charge them for the labor. It'd be like Billy having a worker at Flowers and say, hey, go get my paperwork out of my pickup. And he say, give me $10. Well, you're already on the payroll. So I'd like to see us make it easier and more inspirational to move Glenwood. But
what is the water and sewer tap at each one?
They told me the other day it was $18.75.
That's for water and sewer.
No.
Right.
$500 for sewer, $1,200 for water. Right?
That's losing on sewer.
Huh?
That's losing on sewer.
Oh, I understand that. I'm just saying that, well, I guess my point is we got $2.9 million sitting in our fund, and to me, right now, Glenwood's at a time where we need growth in the city and not people growing necessarily at Piercy and that direction and outside this direction. If we can help it, I'd like to see us keep people in the city. When you go pay sales tax on your car, they say, do you live in the city? Do you not? There's another 0.25%, 1.5%, whatever it is. You know, and so I just would like to see us, I think it'll pay us in the long run to help people grow in the city. And if there is a way to legally make it easy for them to pay $500 up front and the extra $100 a month for a while till they get the fee paid or something, to make it easy for people where they say, hey, I want to live in Glenwood. These people want me. That's just me.
Okay?
So I'd like to make a motion to table my issue till next meeting. And I would like to be closer to the top of the agenda, Mr. BT.
I'm just trying to get things done, boss. Anyway,
So I got a motion to table
That was a
this
joke,
until
really.
next time.
have a second?
I'll second, I'll bring it back up.
Yeah.
All in favor? Okay. Louise Johnson, dog problem, Coker Street.
Okay, she's not here, but I would like to say something. There is a major problem with this dog, and I would really like to know.
Where's it at?
On Coker Street?
What's the problem with the
going
dog?
on with the dog?
It's almost bit me 3 times, and it's put some up here.
Is it to belong to someone?
Nobody claims the dog.
Of course not.
Never delivers food to people, and she has to fight off this dog every time to bring these people
Needs to
food.
be taken care of.
Yeah. Has it been brought up to animal control?
Have we?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
What kind of dog- I mean, you know where it's at?
Is it city or county?
It's in the city, but it's on Coker Street. It's a little
Come by and
beagle.
get me and
A
I'll.
It's a beagle.
A beagle?
Is it over by Sissy Tidwell's place and Pepper's kind of there, or is it in that trailer park area?
It's just down from Sissy on the other
You
side of the road.
talking, Deborah, are you talking about that beagle that doesn't have a collar on, that chases cars? Yeah. It's on Coker Street, it ran me up and down the street and all kinds.
It doesn't belong to anybody.
Nobody claims the dog.
Okay. We'll have
No collar.
animal control go out there and pick it up, or try to.
I'll ask him to.
I'll ask him also.
He said he can't catch it.
Okay, well, that's the thing, that's, most animal control can only catch a contained dog, right? I mean, they can run around and chase them for so long, but if they can't actually physically catch them, then they can't physically catch them. I mean,
We
in
don't-
Arizona, animal control wouldn't even go out on site if the dog wasn't contained. They wouldn't even waste their time, because it's just too hard for them to chase after a dog. No, you can't.
Is it legal to
You know.
shoot them with a trank gun?
Who has
Do
a
we
trank
have,
gun?
Billy,
Do we
do we have
have-
anybody,
I've
anybody
got
else
access
that's
to trank gun.
able to
No,
chemical
I mean,
capture
sure.
portions out of that?
I actually own a trank gun
Are you're still certified, aren't you?
for cattle.
Me and you are both certified.
Not when I left the city, I'm not anymore.
So,
Your license.
what I can do is I'll go
Huh?
out with the animal control guy,
It does what you.
and we'll go try to catch them.
You can set a trap.
Okay, we can
Yeah.
try setting traps, but what about other animals that we trap?
I think you could probably catch this.
So, all I can do is tell you that we'll try
If you
with
need a
animal
trank
control.
gun and it's legal, I'll
Sure,
provide you.
I mean, it's not.
But we got a drone,
Unlegal.
trust me.
Oh, you do?
Oh, we got a really nice one, I promise you.
Yes, we
Who
do.
does?
Why don't we
City.
use
The
it?
city of Glenwood,
Well,
because we
then-
don't have anybody, since I left, you don't have anybody licensed to chemical capture.
Okay,
So we're
so,
gonna have to rely on traps, and he's gonna have to keep an eye on it, he's gonna have to get it done.
good. We'll work on that.
You
So,
can't buy a tranquilizer if you're not licensed.
No.
we'll work on that.
Work it out, yeah.
How difficult is it to get licensed for that?
Well, back when we went, it's about what was it, Brenda, about a $1,200 a person class? And we'll have to pay room and board and everything, because it's never closed, so. But that's something we're just gonna have to work on doing, we gotta get it done.
Well, and that's one of the things that tax reallocation,
Yep.
there's gonna be a little bit more money possibly into animal control.
We're literally just gonna have to go out, the only way he can physically, if he can't catch the dog physically, he's gonna have to set traps. But he's gonna have to set multiple traps. He's gonna have to get permission from everybody, and they're gonna have to sign a piece of paper saying that they can put them on their property and all this and that. I mean, it's gonna have to be done no
Right.
matter which way you look at
It's
it.
just a little bit more complicated, and like I said, I'll work on that with them.
Billy, before we close, I got one
So,
thing I got.
give me the address.
Coker Street.
Anywhere close to,
Probably
I
from
mean,
Sissy Tidwell's back to Mountain View.
so give me,
No, it's somebody else.
I mean, I need an address to start. I mean, I don't know where Croker Street.
Louis Johnson is in the corner. You turn down Polk Street, you know where the laundromat used to be?
Yeah.
Turn down there and go right there and it's right there.
Okay.
Yeah. And I imagine that dog runs all, it's probably in that trailer park. That was the biggest problem I ever had.
The thing everybody needs to remember about animal control in the city of Glenwood, to take care of the dog pound and everything we do, we got $18,000 a year. And that's paying personnel to go catch dogs, feed the 15 dogs we got in the pen up there. I mean, how much? I'm not being mean, not saying we can't do it, but there's just not any money to get much done with.
Well, that's the thing, is we've actually tried to start assisting with an organization, and we have had probably $200 in donations, you know.
Not to mention 7 people volunteer to help, and then when I have reached back out to those 7 people, not one of them actually wants to do much.
With that being said, that's
besides
not
give
an
them
excuse.
treats and
We're going to
walk
work on
dogs.
it.
We'll work on it, yeah.
And I understand that, but what I'm telling you, it's a bigger problem than anybody really
Big problem.
thinks it is, you know.
Truly,
So
because there's not enough support.
we've gotten,
at all.
what, 8 dogs in the last 2 weeks and 6 kittens.
And
That-
we've got 2 puppies at our house currently and 6 kittens
They're at my
in a
house
pen
right now.
at my house because they got abandoned at
You're
the
right,
Cattle
because,
River.
well, I am the facility.
They were dumped at Cattle River Canoe.
Hey, I got a question while we're talking about this. Can we not make an ordinance where these people can't sit up in Wright's parking lot and sell these animals every weekend?
Truly.
I think you
There's
can.
some of your problem right there.
But
You
part of that
cannot do anything
problem,
about it because as long as rights allows them to sit there in that parking lot, they can do whatever
That's
they want right
correct.
there.
part of that
I
problem,
doubt
if
the
you
dog
don't
getting
give them,
sold is your problem.
if you don't give them something where to do it, they're just gonna dump them off anyways. We got 2 dogs this week from Wright's, 1 from Helping Hand, 1 from Kennedy Road.
We had a
1
lady,
from somewhere else.
we had a lady come in Saturday at the store
And
That's
one-
why it's
and
not
said, "Here, look
y'all
at this
just took it
dog."
to your house.
and handed it to one of my
Because
employees
the
and
city
took
of
off and
Glenwood does not
left.
accept any animals outside of city limits.
Kennedy Road,
Point blank period. That's
Kennedy
outside
Road got
city
brought into it.
So we got a dog. I don't have a dog anymore, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. We're gonna work on that question. Alan's got one, I got one more thing and Alan's got one more thing.
Can we actually bring the dogs to your accounts, to your?
To my place.
You ain't gonna want to like the way I get rid of it. Cause I ain't got no other place to take it.
Do yours first, because I need Greg in here whenever, and he just got a call.
Okay. When do y'all want to move? And I've got city employees here. We've got the internet stuff all hooked up at the other building over there. When do y'all want to try to move them? Somebody give us some dates.
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
It's gonna be nice.
The last weekend of June, only because I can't be down during my court week.
Well, just as soon as possible. Whatever it needs to be.
We were looking at the last weekend of June, that way I don't have to work that week in between, so we do this next, when I'm paying up and we do billing.
I would say use your own discretion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
You ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, previous mayor, which full disclosure was my wife for short term. Well, the poor lady paid for it too, by the way. But she authorized. We had a situation. I'll be pretty brief. I know everybody's getting tired, but we had a situation that happened. We were on our way back from Oklahoma. Police chief calls. They have a domestic on 3rd Street. In conversation, of course, he's on Bluetooth. I'm sitting there just observing the conversation. She talked to him. She said, "Do what now? Say that one more time." And he said, "Well, we've only got one taser that works. We think it works right sometimes." He said, "I don't have much we have basically zero confidence in our tasers." And so we going down the road for a little bit, and so she kind of thought about it and kind of got a general idea of what they were. Knew it was under her actual limit. We talked about it a little bit, and she called back. She made this decision. It wasn't me making it. I give her my thoughts because she asked for them. But anyway, she authorized him to, the police chief at the time, to proceed with getting a quote and as quickly as possible get a taser for the officers that we currently had on board. The situation was in the holidays. We were coming back from Christmas. The officer approaches, the guy's got a shotgun. It was could have been a really bad situation, and we're going to have more of them, especially at holidays, Thanksgivings and such. But I would never want to send my loved one out with a taser that they thought would work, because if someone draws down on you, you're going to reach for something you know will work. And I think it'll be in the city's best interest to, if we can't order 4, order 3 or 2 or whatever. And it was actually already approved with the previous administration, and I'd like for us to see us honor that and let Billy and Greg move forward at their own discretion. And anyway, for 4 tasers, it's $16,298.40, but they provide us with the training stuff, like the cartridges. I think they're a 2-shot taser.
Yes, sir.
They're a 2-shot taser. You give us a short talk and explain
From
this.
what talking with the people, they furnish for this price. They furnish for the 5 years. They furnish everything. They furnish all the training cartridges. Any cartridges we use, they replace. So, and then they're warranted for the full time.
Guns too?
Yes. Now, as you see, the first year is a little different because they're allowing us some credit for the parts and pieces we have.
Yeah, and then if I'm understanding this right, it's explain the breakdown to them as you've read it. You've done a whole lot more with it than I have, but I've got a general idea.
Well, I mean, it comes with what they quoted. Glesher, and it's just the paperwork from there. There's four tasers. Again, it comes with all the cartridges, the training cartridges, the usage. They've got short range and long range cartridges. It's a 5-year deal. It's so much per year for 5 years.
Isn't it like 10, 15, 20, 25 foot cartridges?
Yes.
Or whatever?
Yes.
Generally, you just do 25 foot. It expands, and I'm sorry to speak on this, but
no,
one thing for the council to think about is we're not giving our officers
What they need.
a level of force. We're basically going from either hands-on or lethal force. If we don't provide that next step from hands-on to being a non-lethal like taser or pepper balls or whatever, then we're only giving our officers the option to shoot. Lawsuits on that is quite a bit more than $16,000. So,
you know what's sad about this?
we have a lot of issues that we need to address when it comes to law enforcement.
Here,
Just a second. We got to walk through.
you know what's sad about this that we're talking about here? Do you know that our policemen, when they get out of the police car, they have no radio to communicate with Montgomery County, with Pike or Montgomery County? There's no radios left.
Where are the radios?
Travis did loan us 2.
We have no vests for our police officers to wear.
We have no guns.
We have no guns for our police officers. But we got 5 police cars.
Wow, that's sad. Why don't we have that equipment? I mean,
Well, I mean, you got some money to put in the budget for me to buy some of it? We don't have any of it.
did we not?
We ain't, I mean, they bought the last,
We have 2 pictures with big gobs back there.
But they're out of date.
the radios are 15 years, they're not even on the same frequency they work on now, if they could even find them back there.
Your vests are only good for 3 years.
The vest, we don't have any of. I mean, I'm not disagreeing that we need the tasers. I agree with you 100%.
We gotta have the tasers. We gotta
have,
money
if
for
they
something.
can't, the problem we got, and I know we're applying for a grant on this, I hope.
No, you already got it.
We got it?
Pike County has ordered the 8-win radios because we got a $100,000 grant for public service safety equipment. So Glenwood is supposed to get some 8-wins.
How many?
I've got it written down at home. I don't know.
Are we getting anything else out of that, or do you know?
Well, I know he's going to be. They're getting bulletproof vests with this, and they have some bulletproof.
But do we get any of that?
Over to y'all
Okay.
that are still have a life to them until you can apply for the PSA grant.
You know, realistically, all those things are like sized per
Yeah.
person. I mean, you know, in order for it to be truly effective, I mean, we're getting hand-me-down stuff.
Billy, what I would like, I
Better
appreciate
than
what you
nothing right
said.
It is, but-
Billy, what I would like to request.
Go ahead, Alan.
Okay, what I'd like to request of the council, Sharon, do you mind? What I would like to request of the council is, and obviously you too, is simply honor the choice of the previous mayor. It was already authorized, it was already put in motion, and just simply do that, because you know, waiting on a grant, waiting on this, whatever. Time, I think, liability, and when you weigh all the stuff out against it, I think that we have got, if we need a pipe wrench for our truck, we go right straight down there and buy it. If we need something that I've got or he's got or whatever, we go right up there and get it. And I think that if it was my child that I was sending out, there's no way in the world that I would send them out with to have, like Ryan was saying, having to make a choice between drawing down on them with something that they could accidentally get us in some major trouble, or something that they could de-escalate the situation. So I just think that we need to honor the previous mayor's thing and move it forward and order. If we can only order two, you know, or one.
We only got 2 officers right now, but
Let's get 2. I mean, I don't want to send them out.
Brady is, and he has experience, so he knows what's important, and he could prioritize what.
Well, you're right, and that's the thing is, I mean, truly, tasers are real important now. In that scenario that you gave, you would never pull a taser out when somebody has a weapon, whether it's a bat, it doesn't matter. You would always up the level of force and then de-escalate from there. You know, if he drops his bat, then you can pull your taser. There's a lot of training issues involved in there. However, if we don't give him those tools, he can't de-escalate, you know. So all he's doing is keeping his weapon drawn on him, you know. And there's something called sympathetic reflex where you grab one, you grab another, next thing you know, you're pulling trigger on one. There was a video where a lady thought she was tasing somebody and she actually shot him.
Yeah,
You know, but there's a lot of that issues if there's not the proper training. So the training cartridges are important because they have to go through training in order to be qualified in them. There's a lot to it than just a little taser, you know. So again, that's my say.
If it was my family, I'd want to send them out as prepared as I could get them, and if it takes us a while on some things, I understand, but this was previously approved, and I'd like to see us get 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever.
I would hope that we can get this sales tax reallocated so we might get some equipment. If we don't, in my opinion, we'd better off just send the policemen home we got, because we don't have them the equipment they need to run, and just let the town do what it wants to do, because I can't see asking this guy to go out and put his life on the line without the proper equipment. And but hopefully hopefully people will get behind the sales tax reallocation
Well, are we
thing.
going to push this thing off till after we get the sales tax too, or are we going to just order?
Well, you're gonna pay for it out of city general. I'm fine with it, but you're gonna. How much city general got extra?
I'll tell you what I will do, Mr. Plyler. I'll vote no on every single issue across this table until we take care of our officers on tasers.
Alan, I'm not trying to say don't take care of the officers. I'm all
Randy down
for
there
it.
with half-jack stuff, and I think it's out of line that what Brown was saying, I have talked to several different officers, and they say that tasers are a tremendous tool, and if we need a piece of anything for anything, we go get it. We figure out how to pay for it. This is a very minimal thing. There's 4, so they're roughly $4,000 a piece. Let's spend $8,000. We spend $200,000 or $300,000 here and there on a yes and a second and whatever else. But I'll turn it into a 3-0 council, and y'all can do what you want to, because I don't appreciate this.
Okay, Alan, I'm for doing what you want to do, but you've also got to remember the city. Your hands are tied as to where your money is setting in a budget. Okay. I can't take money from the street department or from the water and sewer department and put in city general for the police department. I would like to do that, but you're going to get caught on an audit doing that, and you're going to have to pay it back anyway. So the only thing we can do, we've got to get people behind us, and I spend overspending your budget and what little bit there is in reserve. I don't know what city general's got in reserve. It's got a little bit in the year, and I agree with you. You need to buy them. But if we don't get people to understand we got to do something here We cannot keep operating the police department and keep spending more in city general than it's bringing in. It won't work.
Billy,
And I
it's
make-
$3,500 a year to arm our officers right.
He's not arguing that though.
I'm not arguing with you on any of that.
we had a
We sat down here in the general fund budget and we have $0 to spend. But let's vote on it and we'll overspend in city general. I'm for it. I am not against it. I'm just saying, if people don't get behind this and understand how desperate we are in city general, we got a problem. And if we've got to put some taxes in there to help have equipment for those guys to use. But you don't have to vote on it. I'll go buy the 2 tasers. Just know that the budget, we're overspending city general. It's got to come out of city general budget. I'm going to get rolled up on it at the end of the year. And I think it's the thing to do. But I think we ought to have them radios so they can talk. And I think they ought to have police vests. And I think all 3 of those things are just as important as tasers. And I think we ought to buy all 3 of them for them right now. If I had the money in the budget to done it, it would have been in the budget this year. But if we want to overspend and everybody gets told we've overspent city general and we get rolled up on it and everybody in the town knows we get rolled up on it so don't get blasted about it, let's do it. Let's buy 2 vests. Let's buy 2 tasers. And let's buy 2 radios and get our officers equipped that are out there right now. And I'm for it. But just vote for it and we'll get rolled up on it. As long as we got some money in surplus general, we can overspend city general. We can't do it much, but we can't pay for it out of, that's what I'm saying. We can't spend the money that's specifically set in that sales tax to go to water and sewer and streets, no matter how bad we need on the police officers. The police officers need the money. I'm 100% beside you.
I understand, and I was passionate. I was just passionate about it because I felt like that it was something that was authorized in the previous year's budget, so you had sort of a little bit of an out to a certain degree. And another thing was that there's no way when you look at the numbers and you figure up how much it is per day, it gets down to hardly peanuts.
I understand that.
But I know it takes money.
But I mean, it's more. I mean, like you said, I mean, we need sidearms.
We do,
need
but let's
tasers,
start
we need
somewhere.
the vest, and the radio.
Yeah.
So let's get all of them.
Okay. Y'all just vote to tell me how much you want to overspend the budget and we'll order the equipment. Y'all tell me.
It's 4 mobile radios, 1 for each cruiser, 5 portable radios.
When are they getting their deal?
They should be
He's
here
got
within,
order.
Okay.
yeah, they should be here within a week or 2, the
Okay, so the
8
radios.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and buy the 2 tasers for the police officers now.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I agree with it 100%.
That way he has one working, if they have to come by and grab before they go on.
We got to start somewhere.
Yep. And you have one in
Now,
spare.
Sure, you can share.
Travis has told me that, which, like I said, he's loaned me two county radios right now. The A-Winds are supposed to be in just any time from what I talked with the radio guy. So that's why I didn't even bring any of that in here, Billy, because I think we...
Yeah, but it's embarrassing. I'm the one that's getting the phone calls from Pike County because our police officers aren't responsive and they can't communicate with you and they're getting mad at you because once you get out of your car, you've lost communication with them. And they're getting mad at us because they don't know if our officer's shot and dead or if he's just not responding. Because once you get out of the car, there's no talking to you.
Which is all treated the same. It's all treated the same. If you're unresponsive, you're basically shot and dead. You know what I mean?
I mean, so we've got more issues than just, and it's serious issues, guys. This sales tax thing, there's been a lot of effort put in this to try to get it where we can get things we need without going up on taxes for anybody. If anybody fights against this, I'm sorry, you're fighting against Glenwood because this is a way to do something that'll help us without increasing taxes. And hey, water under the bridge, whether we want to supply Norman water, whether we want to supply Kirby water, what we need, this comes back to what we started talking tonight. We've got to get our police department. It's embarrassing to me to give y'all a budget last year that I couldn't do anything that needed to be done for the police department, and we had $49 left to spend in city general. That's
we
crazy.
passed the budget 2 years ago.
Don't we have a curfew law in place?
Okay, what's that gonna help them with equipment? I'm not arguing that, Rick, but what's that gonna help?
No, but the stuff you're getting into is your domestic. That's got nothing to do with the water department.
Okay. If y'all got anything else, I'm gonna make y'all entertain a motion. We're getting you ready. We're getting you ready.
Travis has also said that he's gonna have some extra vesting and bonus. They've got some new ones, so they've still got some that's intact to give us some more time on that.
Okay.
So we're working, the county's working with us, and we're doing everything we can do.
I know, and it's embarrassing to be the mayor when I have to,
I understand.
it's not right the way we treat the police department. I fully 100% teetotal
We're
agree.
hoping. And they just got new.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh, give me one quick second. Hey, just to note, guys, to balance the budget, to get it in the state, to make it through the state, I don't care if this goes on record, we had 6 vehicles and $900 allotted in maintenance 2 years ago. Got a copy of the budget. That's how we made it balanced. Now, these are on old cars. You can't do that. You can't do that without putting money in the fire department. You can go ahead with your motion.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next time, we'll have to bring them through, but we got
9:10.
Oh, it happened.
Turn your mics on.